You're back here on the Gill Athletics Connections podcast again. Just so humbled. You'll hear me say this every single week. Humbled that you would press play today on the show. I make no bones about it. This is not an easy podcast to listen to, and what I mean by that is this is not a 20-minute drive to work and you're done podcast. This takes time to listen to, but that is intentional. We do that on purpose because the men and women, the coaches that we have on the podcast, their journey is important. Their voice matters. Their story matters, and you don't get to explore that in 20 minutes. So we spend hour and a half, 2 hours. Who knows? Maybe this is going to be a 5-hour banger today. He said he doesn't have school today. So I got all day with my guy today. So we'll see what plans out today. Again, quick introduction. My name is Mike Cunningham. I'm the host here for the Gill Connections podcast. Proud to bring you the stories of the men and women who choose to be track coaches. And today I got a fun one. If you're a longtime listener, sometimes I'll tell you I've got guys and gals that come on the show that I've never met or maybe met at a clinic. I don't know real well. And those really, really excite me. And that's what we have today because I get to learn about a new person that I don't know much about. And that's a great part of my job, creative part, interesting part of my job. So help me welcome from the great state of Texas. I mean, there's a million coaches in there. I could just spend all day down in Texas with coaches. He is the head coach of Gene Tomas High School. We got to learn a little bit more about that high school. Help me welcome the wise, the wonderful Mr. Cjay Brown. Cjay, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you, Mike?
Oh man, I'm doing great. Appreciate you asking. I get to do this for a living, man. So life's pretty good for this guy here. This is what I
Yes,
get paid to
sir.
do is outreach and uplift and honor the positive impact that you make on young people, man. So I'm pumped. I'm pumped. You pumped?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I love it. Hey, before we start your journey, I want to learn more about Gene Tomas High School. That's obviously it's named after somebody. Who do you
All
know
right.
much about who Gene Tomas was?
Yes, sir. We're Gene Tomas High School is located in Richmond, Texas, right outside of Sugarland area, which is right outside of Houston.
Right.
And we actually opened campus this year. So we actually do not have any seniors currently on campus. We only have freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. And so we broke ground this year. Gene Tomas was a longtime teacher, principal, and educator in the Lamar Consolidated School District. And so we opened school August 13th. And so we have only been open about 7 weeks. And
Dude.
so it's been an amazing journey thus far. Obviously, with opening a new school, it comes with everything brand new.
Yeah.
And so we've had to literally build everything from the ground up in hurdles,
Wow.
pole vault mats, high jumps, everything. And
Yeah.
so been blessed and fortunate to also work with our girls coach, Coach Jelana Owens, who shares the same drive and passion as I do for track and field. And so it's been fun.
That's cool.
Supportive AD and Coach Kai Johnson, who loves track and field. And when I was hired, it was very well stated that he's hiring a track guy to coach track and field. And so that's been a blessing as well. And so we're just excited to create culture here at Gene Tomas High School.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that sounds like a smart AD. Shout out to that AD.
Yeah.
Second of all, I can't wait till we get to that part of your journey because that's what fascinates me, sitting in this seat and be able to interview coaches because, you could easily say, especially, this is going to be episode 336. So after 336 and more, actually, because we've had, groups of coaches on at a time,
Right.
there's what else is there to learn, Mike? You've done 300. I mean, that's a good sampling of
Right.
coaches. You've heard it all. To be able to pick your brain about a new school, like
Yes, sir.
literally weeks on campus here,
Weeks. Yes, sir.
that's going to be fascinating. I'm interested because we talk a lot about different topics with culture and building culture and taking over a team and starting a team from 10 kids and growing to 100. You're going to have some pretty unique aspects of a brand new school. I mean, you are starting culture from ground
Yes,
zero.
sir.
So
Yes, sir.
that'll be fascinating. Real quick, what if Gene Tomas is named after a longtime administrator, teacher? Love that, by the way. What in the world do you go for a mascot? What is a Gene Tomas mascot?
So in Lamar Consolidated, we're on what's called tracks. And unbeknownst to me, when I seen the green track, I'm thinking we're getting like North Texas, like a actual green track.
Right?
But our tracks are comprised of elementary schools, middle schools, junior high schools, and high schools. And so what it is they're a feeder pattern, whereas they're literally around the corner from each other. And so if you start at our elementary school, which is Faggard Elementary, you'll go to Billstein, which are middle school, Banks Junior High, which are junior high, and then Tomas High School. And so that's how our tracks work. And yeah, so yeah, that's how it works.
And what would be like, you mentioned North Texas, so they're the Mean Green. What is Gene
Right.
Tomas? What's
Oh, so
their
yeah, sorry. So we're the Gators.
the Gators? Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
Tomas Gators, yeah.
Was that like Gene Tomas's like favorite animal? Like how did I wonder how
So
that
so
came
that
up?
part I don't know. I
Yeah.
wasn't in that process. But I knew that like so the purple track is like the Chargers. And so everybody has like a different like animal or whatever. Foster's the
Yeah.
Eagles and Randall, who's just one state, is the Lions. And so
Okay.
so yeah, every track has a mascot. And so that's
I,
ours was the chosen gate. And green's actually my favorite color. So that was easy for
I
me
was I
in
was
the
hopeful
decision
you
making.
were going to tell us that Gene Tomas passed by an alligator incident. So that's what I was hoping you weren't going to tell us. So okay,
I
good, good.
have no idea,
All right,
but I
all
would
right.
not be surprised. He's a
Or he
great guy.
wrestled an alligator.
Right.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah,
great guy. And
to
so
save
that
the
would not be
kindergartners.
surprising.
That'd be cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir.
We're just
Yes,
gonna go
sir.
with that lore. I want you to start telling that story because
Right.
it'll go on, and like 10 years later, it'll
Yes,
be
sir.
like, oh, it's just Gene Tomas. He wrestled an alligator. That's why I wear the alligator. It'll become truth, man. I love it.
Right.
All right, CJ, let's get into it. Let's learn about your journey. Somewhere, assuming you were an athlete, and we know plenty of coaches who were not athletes in our sport that became great track and field coaches. Somewhere, track and field had to start for you. Where does track and field start for you?
So actually, I've never ran track and field.
Okay.
I haven't. And so so my passion for track comes from my parents who ran track. And my little brother ran at U of H under Carl Lewis and Leroy Burrell.
Oh,
And
wow.
so me and my brother are 3 years apart. And so when he was 14, I was 17, about to leave high school. And I was so he at his school, they were over had too many kids, right? And so he's ran summer track his whole life. I used to record his races and stuff in summer track for Carl Lewis Star, CO Stars Track Club.
Yeah, yeah.
And so Carl Lewis has been a part of our family for a while. And like I say, he ended up running for me at U of H. And so that's how I got into the track.
Wow. So,
From my brother and his friend.
brother ran track. Did you do
Yes.
any sports? What was your some?
So I played football.
Everybody has some kind of jam
Yeah.
during high school. What was yours? Yeah.
So I played football for a little bit, but I was more interested in dating and everything. And so it really didn't stick. Um, and so for me, I was just a
Thank you for
student,
your
but
honesty, by the way.
yeah. So I wasn't really
You could
really
have told
focused
me
on sports like that.
you could
Yeah.
have told me that, man, I was a big scholar. I was into
No,
and
no,
you're
no,
like, no, man, I was into
no.
dating. That's what I was into.
Yeah, it wasn't I love sports, right? I love
Yeah,
sports. I've been around it my whole life. But the rigor of the sports,
sure.
right? Like the
Yeah,
waking up early mornings and stuff, was just not very appealing to me.
yeah,
And so it was just more just being a student, enjoying the
yeah,
social life of being a student. And so
yeah.
that was fun for me at the time.
So you're kind of watching younger brother growing up, and he starts doing
Right.
track, and he starts working with Carl and those guys. Did you know the significance of Carl when he first came into the family?
So no, right? Because
Yeah,
I'm a teenager.
yeah,
My parents are telling me, yeah, he's this fast track guy, and I'm like, okay, cool, sounds good. The uniforms are cool, and again, everybody wants to look good, feel good, and all that. And
yeah.
so I'm like, it's cool. He's an Olympian. That sounds great. But no, I did not understand the significance until I
Right.
got a little bit older, right?
Yeah.
And so that was the fun part for me is as I matured as an adult, I learned more about how much of an impact he laid on track and field.
Yeah.
And so that's when, I'm like, hey, like this sport is pretty cool. Because at the time when I'm 15, I'm like, I can understand why people put themselves through so much pain
Yeah.
for 9, 10, 11, 12 seconds.
Right.
Because it is the rigor of track and field. I tell everybody is like nothing else, right? Like the what it takes to be elite in track and field. I don't think any other sports, and not discrediting any other sports, but I think it really takes a different type of mindset
Yeah.
because there are going to be times where it's not going to be just your fault, right? Wind is a factor, right? And so,
Yeah.
especially in the events I coach, which are the sprints, and so I think that sets them apart.
Yeah. You
And
know
yeah,
what? I just thought about something. And, I tell people, CJ, as the host of the show, I get to push back and I'm the host. I get to do whatever I want, CJ.
right.
So I was just thinking, just for conversation point, I want to have this conversation with you here real quick because I love what you said there. And, as a track guy, I want to agree with that, right? Like, oh,
Right.
track's number one, blah, blah. And at first I was like, well, it's kind of not true. And what I mean by that is in football, if you're trying to become pro or elite,
Right.
there's down times in baseball, basketball, that's
Right.
but I actually think it's easier. And I just kind of had this thought. Here's why this sounds counterintuitive, right? To
Right.
what you just said and what I even just said and thought, and how, probably 99% of our audience is thinking. It might be easier in track and field. Now, that doesn't mean more people get to go pro or elite or,
Right. Right.
their potential. But one of the things that separates track from other sports, and this is why I think track is the bee's knees, why it's the number one, right?
Yeah.
Is there's no one else to blame, right? So
Right.
whatever you
Right.
run in the 100, it's the same 100 for you down there in
Right.
at Tomas High School. It's the same up in Seattle, Washington. It's the same in Augusta, Maine, Miami, Florida,
Right.
etc. Right? And so while it's not easy, because of that, it's not easy to run 9.9 or whatever, to
Right.
go pro and all that kind of stuff, or 9.9 to win the state meet in Texas. That's how crazy this world is.
Right.
But
Right.
I think it's harder to get overlooked
Right.
because of that,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
Because I just think about when you're talking about, I always thought recruiting for track and field was pretty easy. I coached college for track 10 years. That was
Yeah.
kind of my thing. It's more of a relationship thing than it was as far as like evaluation.
Right.
And I may be, I haven't coached in 20 years, so maybe, and that comes with a
Hmm.
doubtful. It's different today. But if I see a kid run 10 flat in high school, well, that's the same 100 meters they're going to run in my college. What
Right.
else do
Yeah.
I need to see? I
Yep.
mean, honestly,
Right.
but in
Right.
football, if a kid runs for 300 yards in a game,
Hmm.
I got to know, well, wait a minute, who is he playing against?
Right.
What kind of
Right.
offensive line does he have? I mean, maybe
Yep.
he's got like a, all D1 offensive line and he's playing
Right.
against the school of, I don't want to say, they're playing against a really small school. Or,
Right.
or,
Right.
if, or here's the unfair part. What if a kid is averaging 40 yards a game? That's not
Right.
very much, right?
Right.
But he has no offensive line.
Right.
He got unlucky and lives in Houston and is playing against all, just killers, all D1
Right.
kids, right?
Yes,
It's
sir.
like, man, that kid actually probably could have gone to Texas TCU, whatever, whatever
Right.
you're a fan of, and maybe gone pro. But because his stats say 40,
Right.
half
Yep.
the
Yep.
people didn't even look at him. So
The variables.
I just think
Right.
track's
The
easier in
variables.
regards to the evaluation that if you're good, I think you have a good, if you, first of all, you gotta have the genetics. If you're good enough to
Right.
be a pro or be an Olympian, it's easier for you to be identified and move that path. Where in football, baseball, same thing with baseball. If a kid's got a, zero point 0.1 ERA, I'm like, well, who's he throwing against? If he's throwing
You're
against
right.
nobodies, who
Right.
cares, right? I don't know.
Yes,
That's
sir.
something I was thinking. Okay, CJ, let's get back to you. I almost called this podcast the Gill Soapbox Podcast because I knew I was going to get on my soapboxes about things.
Yes, sir.
I'm waiting one day to start. You know how these streamers, they get clipped all the time. They'll say something that gets taken out. I'm waiting for people to start clipping me.
Oh yeah,
Please,
yeah. It's
please don't.
coming.
I'm
It's
I'm
coming.
completely happy that I'm not. By the way, but I just know it's happening anyway. I get ahead of myself there. All right, CJ. So brother starts running track. You're going through high school. I assume because you're a teacher, I assume you went on to college.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us
yeah.
about college and what were you thinking as a 18-year-old going to college? What were you thinking
Right.
about becoming as an adult? What was your, you gonna become an astronaut, a firefighter? What were you thinking
Right.
at 18?
So my story is a little bit different, right? And so right after high school, I went into the workforce. I have family who's in real estate, and so initially after high school, I went into real estate for a couple of years, and so
Really?
I did that for like 3 or 4 years. But while I'm doing this, I started coaching 5 and 6 year old flag football with the Missouri City Raiders, and
Okay.
because I knew I wanted to be a coach eventually, and so I started with 5 and 6 year olds.
Okay, so two questions there.
Mhm.
One is, what's it like for an 18-year-old to go into real estate sales? Because I know that's I'll say a fairly popular
Mhm.
profession for adults, and kind of like it seems like it's like this fallback profession. Like someone will
Right.
go into IT, realize they don't like IT, well, I'll become a real estate
Yeah.
agent. It's like everybody, air quotes, can become a real estate agent. I know that's not true, but
Right.
but as an 18 right out of high school, what's that like?
So it was initially real estate development, and so fixing up houses, right? And
Oh,
so
okay.
buy properties for a very much lower
Hmm.
property value, and then fix them up and sell them for 60, 70% of what
Right,
we greater than what we purchased it for.
right.
And so I did that for 3 or 4 years,
That's
about three
hard
or four
work.
years. Yeah, it was. It was
Yeah.
hard work, but it was good money, right? It was good
Hmm.
money. It was a family business, so the bosses were family, and so that wasn't too strenuous.
Right.
Except for the fact that they thought we should work late hours, but other than that, it was great. It was cool, and so I did that for 3 or 4 years, and then realized after coaching little league sports for 3 or 4 years that I'm pretty good at this. Like I'm
Mm.
I'm I'm pretty good at at motivating and mentoring kids.
Okay.
And so, I started doing more research, and I'm like, well, hey, in Texas, you have to be a certified teacher to coach. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. But then I also realized my brother went to private school. He went to Episcopal High School.
Oh
And
yeah.
so in private school, you don't have to be a teacher to coach. And so then this is where my business mind starts coming in. And so I'm like, okay, I know I want to coach track and field. I helped train my brother's friend and my brother a little bit, but more so his friend, who ended up winning the SBC, which is one of our
Yep.
private school, won the SBC 400 title. And you can go on YouTube and see a video of me. He's coming down the home stretch, and I'm running down the bleachers with him while he's coming down the home stretch to win the 400 title. And that's kind of really where my coaching track journey began.
Yeah.
And so I realized, hey, like in private school, we don't have to be certified to teach. I mean, to coach.
Yeah.
And so I start emailing every private school in Houston, Texas.
All right, hold on. Pause there. All right, I love that.
Uh-huh.
The other question I had on those 5 to 6 year olds, did you say that was flag football or football?
Flag football, yes.
Okay,
So we started with flag.
I was gonna maybe stop this recording immediately if you told me regular recording because
No.
Have you ever watched the Netflix show Friday Night Tykes?
Yes,
Yeah.
That's San Antonio, Texas. Yes.
Yeah, I was saying that is in Texas. I couldn't remember if it was
Yes,
Houston or San Antonio.
It's San Antonio, yeah.
I remember watching this. I travel a lot, so I'm always watching,
Right.
my iPad and stuff. And this was years ago. My son now is 14 and freshman in high school.
Right.
He had to be, I don't know, 6-7 years old. So it was good.
Mhm.
Call it 10 years ago. And I played high school football as well. I
Right.
love high school football. I love college football, etc. But I've always kind of like, I think I got really lucky playing 4 years of, I guess maybe 3 years of high school football. Didn't blow out any knees, no documented concussions, although I think I did get one in my senior year. But I always like, with my sons, like, if he doesn't want to play football, that's okay. Like, I don't want to, I don't want my kid getting hurt, right?
Yeah.
And so he's 6, 7, 8 years old, whatever. And I start watching this Friday Night Tykes thing. And I remember calling my wife up from the road. I was at a hotel. I just finished maybe season 1 or something. And I said, if there was any percentage of me that wanted to go back on that and said, my son should play football, it is gone. That,
right.
I mean, you talk about malpractice. These coaches, I think it was 8-year-olds roughly that they were dealing with. It's one and tackle. It's one thing to be aggressive and all this kind of stuff, but the audacity of some of these coaches, while being recorded, by the way, they knew they were being recorded, to tell the kids to break the rules, ear hold them, things that they weren't allowed to do, hit them in the ears and stuff like that. I was just like, there's no way I'd let another adult, I don't care, male or female, do that to my child or my child be the recipient of that and not go off. And I mean, legally, like the whole, just not good. So if you said 5 to 6 year olds, I'm like, oh God, we're Texas. If this dude tells me 5, 6-year-olds play,
no,
not good.
Yeah, it's flag.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
okay.
Flag.
Thank you for that, first of all. All right, so you start coaching 5, 6-year-old flag football, and if you're listening right now and you coached or coached tackle 8-year-old football, first of all, I hope you're doing it correctly. Second of all, I'm not sure 8-year-olds should be playing tackle football. Third of all, what are you doing, man? There's better things to do. Be good to these kids. Holy cow!
Yeah, right.
You find yourself like, oh, wait a minute. Like, not only am I pretty good, like I kind of enjoy this coaching gig.
Right.
You're a smart guy, so you said, all right, well, what's that take? Oh, I gotta be certified. Okay, well, I don't have that. I'm not sure maybe if I have the means for that. But you find out from your brother that that private schools, and there's a couple, right? There's TAPS, there's SBC. We had, I think it was in 2024, 2025, somewhere in the archives. If you're listening, whatever podcast you're on, you can find this. We actually did an interview with a high school coach from every state about their outdoor championships. And so we had Stu Canner on. Everybody knows Stu. I know. He was my Texas guy, and he did because it's a fairly confusing in Texas. There's the general, what everybody would know, like, oh, the UIL. Okay, there's six or seven classes. Okay, this is how we qualify. Makes sense. But then he did a great job of helping us through TAPS and SBC. And I think there's actually a few other little ones as well.
Yeah, we have TCAL and
that's right. Yeah. There was a couple other. It gets a little confusing, and he did a fantastic job. So if you're interested, every state from Alabama, Alaska, Wyoming, everything in between, Washington, D.C. even, we did about a little less than 30 minutes on each state, a high school coach from each state telling us how they qualify for the state meet outdoors. It was fantastic. A lot of rave reviews. So if you haven't heard that, make sure you go back and listen into that. So you find out through SBC, hey, you don't have to be certified. So you started coaching, and this seems like where the bug maybe bites you here.
Yeah.
This is your jam. I said everybody has a jam in high school. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
becoming
Yeah.
your jam. Keep us going with that.
So initially my first response was St. Pius, the 10th high school.
Okay.
And so I was excited about that. I was like, you know what, like I'm getting an opportunity because again, I didn't run track. So
Right. Yeah.
people don't know me, right? Like they don't know who I am. And
Right.
so, but one thing they know is I have a passion for coaching kids, right? And so that's like one of our things, like PAC is a passionate about coaching kids. And so St. Pius extends an offer for me to come be one of their assistant coaches. Well, I realized that St. Pius does not have a track on campus.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that makes it kind of hard. But again, I'm brand new, so what do I really have to be like?
Right.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
I'm
Who are you to
I'm
be
too good
picky?
to right. How can I be picky? And I'm like, okay, but I accept. I'm like, okay, great, this is great. I get the opportunity, so I'm excited. I tell my parents, they're excited. And then like a week later, the Kinkaid school emails me back. And then if you know about Texas, Kinkaid School, the private school is one of the most prestigious private schools in Texas, around 32 grand a year to go there, very high profile. So they emailed me back. Beautiful facility, full track, everything. And so I have to make a decision, right? I'm like, hey, I have to make a decision if I want to go and do work at the Kinkaid School or do I want to work at St. Pius? Both great schools, both great high academic standards, which is what I wanted, obviously, in private school. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Kinkaid School.
Mm-hmm.
And so Coach John Beckwith and Coach Ken Connor give me my first opportunity to coach high school track and field.
Wow.
Now, again, this is me. I had did a little bit just backtracking. I had worked at a charter school with middle school, coaching middle school girls. We had 5 athletes at a big time district meet at Houston Christian. You're gonna hear me mention them again soon. But at Houston Christian, we had 5 kids compete and end up placing second place at the meet.
Wow.
With five kids compete.
Yeah.
And so that's when I realized, I'm actually okay at coaching track and field.
Yeah.
So that's when I reached out to Kinkaid and all the other private schools.
When generally, again, after 300 and something interviews, we've learned there is no one path that
Right.
gets you to where you are today. But in general, this is a pretty tried and true statement that when we first become coaches, we typically coach how we were coached because that's all we
Right.
know. It's how
Yep. Yep. Yep.
good or bad or everything in between. That's just what
Right.
we know. And then we do, some peer-to-peer coaching
Right.
education, formal coaching education, things like that, and develop our style. So when you first become a coach, what's your basis? Like where are you? You didn't do track, so there's nothing to
Right.
fall back and go, well, this is what my coach did. How, how
Right.
did
Right.
how
Right.
did you start to even know how to coach track and field when you first?
So so I'm very inquisitive, right? My mom would say that my dad's passed on now, but my mom would say I'm very inquisitive. Anything I've ever wanted, I'm always gonna go get, right? And so I'm gonna look it up. One of our dogs we had for 16 years up until his death. I found him on Craigslist and begged my dad to go and get him. And so that just tells you, and this was at like 10, 11 years old. And that just tells you kind of just like my mentality and pretty much how I coach is very like we're getting after everything we do.
Right.
And so I was inquisitive on learning track and field. And so, I started doing research, reading books, talking to, coaches that I respected and knew. And so that's kind of pretty much how I learned, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I look back on it now, I realized I didn't know anything. And so, but what I did have was a passion, right?
Yeah.
And when you have passion and purpose and those two align, you can be really good at whatever you put your mind to. And that's kind of what I preach to my kids.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%, CJ. But unguided passion can be dangerous, right? I mean,
Right,
in
right,
our area here with track and field, kids could get injured,
right,
lose
right.
love for the sport, et cetera, et cetera. So when you say you started reading, you said reading and talking with coaches you knew and respect. Let's start with the
Mhm,
reading. Do you remember any specific? Because here's the case, CJ.
mhm.
I always hate to say this. You are not unique. And what I mean by that, you are very
Right.
unique, CJ. But what I mean by that is there are other people right now listening that are about to
Mhm.
start their first year coaching track this year, or they're in
Right,
their second year and they're like, I'm lost. So
right,
do you remember any kind of specific stuff that you read that would be good for like someone who's listening to be like, oh, I need to go get that book or an
right.
article or a podcast or anything? Do you remember anything specific?
Um, I, it's been,
I know, I
I've
put
been
you on the
coaching
spot.
since
I
I
know.
was, yeah, it's
Yeah, I
been
know. I know.
15 years, but
Yeah.
I believe, I think one of the books was something about Tom Tellez, right?
Yeah.
That was one of them, obviously. Of course, talking to Carl Lewis,
Mhm.
Coach James Banks, which is one of my mentors at Fort Bend Marshall. Well, was at Fort Bend Marshall,
Mhm.
won 10 state titles. So talking to him, and 10 state titles in Texas is unheard of, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
so,
anywhere, but yeah, exactly.
and yeah, in 5A track and field.
Yeah.
Let me
Wow.
see. Yeah, that was pretty much it, honestly.
And
Oh,
so,
and then obviously having the guidance of going to Kinkaid and working under
oh, right.
um,
Hmm.
coaches there. And
Yeah.
so initially, my first assistant position was under Coach Beckwith and Coach Connor at Kinkaid.
So help us understand kind of pre Kincaid, and I'm gonna call it post, but still at Kincaid, CJ's learning. And what I mean by that, yeah, I think you said kind of sprints and hurdles is kind of
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So like before you got to Kincaid, CJ thought I'm just gonna make up stuff. You're gonna tell us the specifics. CJ thought you were supposed to run 5 by 1 mile to make a good tough
Right.
100-meter guy. But then I
Yeah.
got to Kincaid and was with Coach James and stuff, and I was like,
Right.
oh, wait a minute.
Right.
Okay, I learned. Can you kind of because what I'm trying to
Right.
paint the picture is your development of like, oh, okay, I love
Right.
track, I have passion for track, and sometimes
Right.
bridled with like, well, let's make them tough, let's go make them miler repeat, and it's like, oh, it's terrible, it's not what you do at all.
Right.
Let me
Right.
learn how to actually coach. So help us understand
Right.
kind of pre and post that
Yeah,
development.
so just going back to when I, initially started coaching middle school, and I believe that, I'm so grateful for them, but I believe that they just needed someone. And I applied, and so obviously it's hard to fill middle school positions coming in at a charter school where you have to be there at 3:45. And
Right,
obviously I'm pretty much making my own schedule, so
right.
that worked for me. And so yeah, going back to, starting coaching, and those kids are now in their 20s, early 20s. And so going back, just doing like we didn't have a track at school, so what I would guesstimate probably like 600s and
Mhm.
everything for short sprinters.
Yep.
But again, this is lack of knowledge, but
Yeah.
passion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when you can get kids to believe in what you teach and what what you think is right, it'll work. And
Yeah.
so
And
if you
and
ask,
and, and
mhm,
sorry to interrupt, CJ, but 100% please note this is not about judging CJ.
right,
This is not about like, oh, CJ, what an idiot, 600. This is actually because what this is real life. You can
right,
either you can listen right now to CJ at this part of the story and go, why would he do that? That's terrible. This guy's a
right,
terrible coach, blah, blah. Or you can realize you probably did this too. And by the way,
right,
if you can't at some point, 5 years, 10 years into your career, look back at your first year or two and go, oh,
right,
that's a little cringe. What did I do?
right,
I
right,
think you might be coaching wrong because that means you
right,
haven't developed. So CJ, please, not a single ounce of judgment when I ask these questions.
right,
I want to show what I'm trying to do is kind of pull the curtain back and show this is real life, baby. This ain't curated, our tweets and stuff. This ain't,
right, right,
when I
right,
get up in front of a track clinic to speak and I talk only about the 10 state titles and all that kind of stuff, and those are great.
right,
It's like, hey, here's my warts and all because that's what helps people develop. So
right,
I appreciate you
absolutely,
being very open and authentic here. So you
right.
get to the middle school and very common. You're like, all right, well, I love track and these guys got to be tough. It's a hard sport. We're gonna do 600-meter
Right,
repeats. Yeah, that's pretty
right, right.
pretty common, unfortunately. Sure.
And so that's what pretty much the workouts at the middle school level in my first year of ever coaching track and field
Yep.
over 10 years ago consisted of is like, okay, well, we need to be tough.
Yep.
And what I didn't realize what I was doing now when I look at it, I was doing workouts that were more consistent with 800 milers.
Right. Right. Yep.
And then trying to get them to turn over and sprint, which is very counterintuitive to the energy
Yeah.
systems that a sprinter would use.
That's
And
right.
again, this is me at 23
Yeah.
ish.
With
So
with zero track background.
with zero track background,
And again, you
just
could have been all excused if you said, "Yeah, I ran track. This is what coach did to me. So this is what I did." I'd been like, "Yeah,
right,
that's right. That's what
right,
we do."
right,
So
right,
absolutely, you're on the right
right,
track, if you will, for your development. I love this. Keep
right,
going.
right. And so yeah, so like I said, we had fun. We probably were more stronger than we were fast, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because we're doing workouts that were more strength based and like I said, more 800-mile based, which is probably why we did pretty well in the mile races. Not
What
knowing
a
that,
shocker!
right, like we did better in the longer distance races, and our sprinters, just had guts and glory and were able to just finish
Hey,
because they weren't faster.
and here's what happens. I mean, this is so common, CJ. I love this. This is great. This is going to be real helpful for people listening. So thank you for
Yes,
this.
sir.
There are people that will have that same experience. They'll be doing 400, 600 repeats. and their team will start doing better in the 8:15 and maybe the 2 mile and 4x8. And
Right.
they're like, that's great. We're just not fast. And so they'll double down. Like, we got to get
Right.
faster. So we're going to do more 600-meter repeats.
Right. Right.
My senior year, I think I've said it before. I know I've said it before. My freshman through junior year in high school, terrible track coaching. Great track coach. Dennis Anderson was my track coach. Love him to death. He was a thrower at my alma mater, Troy University. Love him to death. Had no clue how to coach. We literally every day would run our events and be done. And not only that, we'd run them in the order of the meet. So literally every day, the 4x8, we did our thing first, and then the 100-meter
Yeah.
guys would run 100, and then we'd go do the four, whatever. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously didn't get very good, and I didn't have the genetics. But anyway, senior year, whole new coaching staff.
Uh-huh.
John Gross is our track coach. Love him to death. John actually ended up going to become the head football coach at Jacksonville State and took him to the
Mhm.
championship game. Love Coach Gross. And he's different. He's like, well, I remember telling him that was our workouts. And he was like, that's just, what do you mean? We're not doing
Right.
that.
Right. Right.
Here's what we did every single day. 400-meter repeats for everybody. Our 800 milers got better. In fact,
Yeah.
kid was a year younger than me, Kevin Betts. Love Kevin. His daughter is a standout track athlete now down in Alabama. He goes on to win the state meet in the mile his senior year after I get done, right? It was just like, well, of course, we're probably pretty good 800-meter milers. We're doing quarter repeats every single day, right? Nowhere in the mind until you start doing coaching education and talking with other people, do you start going, oh, that's not what the 100-meter demands.
No,
That's
no.
not. No wonder we're not very good at the 4x1. We're tough.
Right.
We're tough, but
Right.
guess what?
We're
There's
tough.
no event that's called tough. So we got to
Yep.
stop
Yep.
coaching towards tough and
Exactly.
start coaching to the
Exactly.
event. What did
Exactly.
you, when you got to Kinkaid, and maybe
Mhm.
it was a little bit before that, so you tell me where. What I'm curious about, you had to have sat down with someone, whether it's Carl Lewis, the coach at
Mhm.
Kinkaid, and either you started it or somehow, as they're talking about training, you were like, maybe you did, maybe out of pure embarrassment, you just didn't mention it all. I don't know, but
Right. Right.
I'm trying to find a story, a real story, where you said, "Oh, well, I do 600-meter repeats," and they would have been like, "Wait, what?" Like,
Right.
did that ever occur, or how did that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So ironically enough, the girls' head coach at Kincaid happened to be a science teacher, right?
Okay.
And so now we're talking more science-based approach to training. And I'm thinking again, we're thinking guts and glory. Mondays need to be Monster Monday. They need to be on the ground throwing up. Because if they're not throwing up, knowing that now we've taxed all energy systems, they can't do nothing. And so I get there and I'm like, and coach is like, well, coach, if they're on the ground rolled over on Mondays, you don't get nothing out of them on Tuesdays, right? And then the rest of the week going. And so and again, he was very it was such a good experience because it wasn't a judgment zone, but it was more of a, we hired you because we understand your passion. That's
Right.
what we say through the interview. And we can teach you everything
That's
else. We can
exactly
grow
right.
you.
We talk about that here at Gill about you can teach the skills. Well, I
Right,
can't teach passion. I can't
right,
teach
right,
curiosity. I can't teach
right,
teamwork. I can
right,
I can teach the skills. That's exactly right. So they saw
right,
in you like, oh, dude, he's spitting fire. He's passionate about helping young people. All right, we can
right,
teach them how to coach.
right,
That's
right,
almost the
right,
easy part, actually. So yeah,
right.
love that. Love that.
and
What
and so and so so I started, obviously learning more about the energy system, acceleration patterns, and all of those things.
did
With
that
Vince
just like
Anderson,
blow your mind?
it did. It really did,
Like there's an
honestly.
actual process to.
It did. And so when I look at my training program, I'm looking at now we're right now currently in my current school,
Mhm.
we're in our general prep phase. And
Right.
so now we're really working on general
Dude, you
things. And
have
so
learned. Holy cow.
right.
Wow.
Oh yeah, our season's broken up to so many phases now, micro and macro phases. And so things that didn't happen when I first started coaching, right? Like it was, what is a phase? What is acceleration? What is tempo? Shoot, I was doing tempo workouts every day and didn't
Every
even know it.
day.
Didn't even realize it. And then trying to wonder why I can't go and crack 12 seconds in the sprints
Oh
because we're
my
not
God.
sprinting. So that was the fun part, getting under them the first year and learning.
As you started, and again, CJ, this tells me so much about you
Yes, sir.
that you can be so open and transparent
Right.
and be able to laugh at yourself. Like that to
Oh
me
yeah.
is a huge like green flag. You know, we always talk about red flags and people.
Right,
This is a
right,
green flag when someone can be like, "Man, I was so dumb. You know what I was doing?
right.
Thank God someone took me under the wing and taught me." And
Right,
and then
right.
and then to have the humility to listen and go,
Absolutely.
"Whoa, okay, that is right. I was wrong here."
Absolutely.
I just think that says so much about you, CJ. So I really appreciate that. So as you're is the science teachers pulling you over talking about ATP and all these kind of things,
Hmm.
did as you started doing changing up your workouts
Hmm.
to this a new learning that you had there, did you start seeing results?
Absolutely. And so also during, and I'll get more into it. I also have a summer track program as well. And so we started to see results in that. And me and the founders of the club, when we all started together, we were talking about, when we first started our track club and we were doing 600s, and as we've grown in our training and we've seen results from national champions to national records to all kind of things, and we've had 50 plus All-Americans, broken national records and all that. But yes, it's indicative of the growth in the coaching as
Wow.
well as the preparation of the athletes, because
Mhm.
they have to run right, and them buying into the program and everything that we're selling. And when those things come together, I think it's a recipe for a very, very good program. And so
That's so cool, man. Holy cow. That's just so funny to me because we like to take what we just talked about there with your development, your natural inclination to coaching, and then the
mhm,
development of what I would call actual, truly coaching track and field,
right.
specifically in our, short speed events. That is so common, dude. I mean,
Right.
we like to like not talk about like, oh no, no, coaches come out of the womb knowing, fly
Yeah.
30s and
No.
acceleration. It's like, no,
No.
that
Yeah.
has to be taught. It
Yeah.
has been.
Yeah.
That's why I'm such a big believer in coaching education and clinics
Right.
and peer to peer. Calling someone.
Right.
I mean, to have the ear of someone like a Carl Lewis and things like that. It's just so valuable
Right.
to be able to hear some of the things. And I know, like recently, we had Curtis Taylor from Oregon on the
Mhm.
show.
Yeah.
Amazing man,
Hmm.
love him to death. And he talked about a little bit of what's the right word here? A little bit of disillusionment of like when he's at clinics and stuff. Coaches will be listening and all that kind of stuff. And then as soon as he says a workout, that's when they start scribbling.
Right.
And I think that's okay. Not because I think they should go take that workout and immediately do that workout, but
Right.
it's hard to express what proper sprint training is without a
Hmm.
workout. You can say
Right.
like, oh, you should do acceleration training. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, that's in between, call
Right.
it 10 to 40 meters.
Hmm.
Okay, so do I just run 140 meters? Do I run 140 meters?
Right.
Typically what we'll do is we'll do five out of the blocks and like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's hard to express some of these very, what we're doing in track and field, which is different from other sports. This is where we are different from other sports. We're not trying to learn plays. We're not
Hmm.
trying to figure out where's the center go on this play.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not trying to figure out what the right tackle does on this play. What the signals are to steal bait. We're not learning any of that. It's 100
Right.
meters, or the most we do is like 4x1. Like that takes some. I guess that's a play.
Right. Right.
But what we're doing is we're trying to take the body and say, okay, you can max run in this example 100-meter dash in 11 seconds. Okay, what do I do to change that body to where it runs 1095 and then 1090 and 1080, all the way
Right.
down?
Right.
That's hard. That
Yeah.
takes as a
Yeah.
coach, that takes training and teaching. So
Yeah. Yeah.
what you're expressing here is so normal, and I love it. And I love to be able to. We haven't had this opportunity in a long time. I love being able to have this opportunity to kind of pull back the veneer and show real coaching development, man. So I
Right. Right.
absolutely love this. Absolutely love this. Okay, you're at Kinkaid. You are.
Hmm.
I mean, this is a pretty instrumental time frame for your
Yeah.
overall up to this point
Yes.
career.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell us
Absolutely.
how it went at Kinkaid.
So at Kinkaid, we end up winning two SBC state titles, breaking a 4x1 state record, the 100 state record, 200 state record, and coming really close to the 4x4 state record. And so what I didn't mention initially is that when I got hired at Kinkaid, I was hired as the sprints coach. And so as much as Coach Connor talked about, um, you know, t- taught me everything and about the energy systems and all those things, he threw me in the fire year one. It was, you're going to be the sprints coach, and it's up to you to get the sprints where they're going, right? And so we did just that, right?
Nice.
I was blessed to come in with a junior who had already went a junior girl who had already went 11-7,
Wow.
in 23 seconds. And so now it's how do we get her faster than 11.7, right?
Mhm.
And how do we get her, low 23s?
Did
So we achieved that.
did you know um like when you got there and so you get handed this 11.7, did you know like how precious that is? And what I mean by that is, and I know
Mhm.
it's easy for you to get a little jaded in Texas
Right.
because 11.7 might be the 40th fastest kid overall
Right, right,
in the
right,
state of
right.
Texas, but 11.7 will win the state meet for, if there's 50 states, most states have more than one division. I mean, there's got to
Mhm.
be, I should actually do this one day. There's got to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 to 250-ish state meets when you talk about
Mhm.
classes, right? Like in Illinois,
Classification, yeah.
yeah, Illinois we
Mhm.
have three. Heck, Texas you
Right.
have seven plus the
Yeah.
tabs, and I
Yeah.
mean, so that, so
Uh-huh.
maybe it's closer to 300.
Yeah.
11.7 will win
Yeah.
200 of the 300
Yeah.
state meets,
Yeah.
and then play second
Yeah.
in 90% of the rest of them, right?
Right,
Did
right.
you realize like, oh wow, this girl's already really good? Did you know
Yeah.
how precious you had?
So so just being around summer track, I did. Because
Mm.
remember, my brother, at this
Oh,
time,
that's right. Yeah.
he's now 20 in college running.
Hmm.
And so he's ran since he was 6 years old. So
Hmm.
I've always knew like track stats.
Yeah.
I've
Okay.
always been a statistician. This was before it was so easily accessible. We used to go, I
Yeah.
forgot the name of the website, but it was like a blue website, and they would update it like every so often to where people ranked. And so like when my brother used to go to Junior Olympics, we'll know, hey, y'all are coming in at like fourth coming
Wow.
in to the relay. And so I've always known track stats. And so I think that was also a pretty big, I guess, green flag, if you
I,
will.
I think it's huge.
Um,
When I only before I coached college, I coached a boys' high school, and so I knew boys' times decently. I probably
right.
actually didn't, but I thought I did. I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
no clue because I started thinking I was like, I got to start recruiting girls. I'm like,
Right.
I don't even know where do I start. I have no clue
Right,
how to
right,
pay
right.
attention. And so I
Yeah.
had to start learning. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that alone, you're right, it kind of helps you because it helps set the tone of like, oh,
Right.
developmental versus oh, you're 11.7, you're elite. I know there's way
Right.
faster than 11.7, but 11.7, you're elite in high school.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so yeah, so same with you. I was very well versed on boy times.
Hmm.
And then but learning that if you're going under 24 seconds as a girl, you are the most elite in the nation,
Yeah.
right? And again, so coming in, brand new coach, I'm young, and so I think had that was one of my pluses that I'm young, and so I was relatable to the kids, right? And
Mhm.
so that was the easy transition for them is that there was a young coach coming in, and so they kind of bought in pretty early to what I was teaching, even being very new into the profession, and
Mhm.
even newer into high school
Did you
with kids.
did you have to prove yourself? And what I mean by that is your brother ran for Houston, right?
Right.
So if your brother and I don't, your brother's not the star of the show you are, so I don't want to get into your
Yeah,
brother. But
yeah.
if your brother goes to coach track and field,
Hmm.
he has a little bit of a proof calling card, right? Like, hey, I ran for Houston.
Right,
Shut up and listen to
right,
me, right?
right,
I mean, there's
right,
a little bit of
right,
that, right?
right,
You don't have that. You didn't run high
right,
school, etc. Did these kids who you're relating with on an age basis? I get that.
right,
Was there ever like well, so where did you run? Wait a minute, you didn't run. Like, was there ever that like you had to like, hey man,
right.
that's not the be all end all to be a coach.
So it was that, right? But it wasn't like that was like a proof thing, right? It was just like, okay, well, did you run? It was like, no, all right, you're cool anyway. So, and I've always had that, right? It was always my
Bravo.
kids have always gravitated to me pretty quickly. At the time we kind of still listen to the same music, not so much now,
Yeah.
but at the time we listened to the same
Dude,
music and stuff.
I'm
And
sorry.
so,
I'm a Segway guy, and so you said that
yeah.
and it made me think. I was just down in Texas actually
Hmm.
at Kenny Roseman's place. Do you know Kenny
Yep,
that
yep, Kenny,
Jump
yep.
Smart?
That's
Yeah.
a friend of
So I was
mine. Yep,
down. Yeah. So I was down there hanging out with him and John Drummond, and John Drummond and I
yep.
are close-ish to the same age. I think he's a little bit
Hmm.
older than I am, and Kenny's a little bit younger. And the
Yeah,
big
yeah.
debate all night at Kenny's location was about music. And so
Right,
like JD and I, and it was JD's birthday, John and I are talking about, music from our, Tribe Called Quest and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
NWA and,
yeah.
that kind of stuff. And Kenny is talking about music that I'm like, I don't even. And what's funny is
Yeah.
some athletes came in to work out, and
Hmm.
Kenny was like, I don't know even what they're listening to. Like, what is it?
Right.
He was
Oh
making
yeah,
fun
it's
of them,
different.
and it was
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh,
now it's
it's
yeah.
just generate. You know what? You
Yeah,
say
it's
that,
generation.
and I agree with that. But our parents said the same thing about my age.
Right.
What
Right.
is this tribe called? What are you
Right.
NWA? What is it? And I'm being a little fake here. I absolutely listen. I grew up on rap music, so I absolutely did
Right.
listen
Right.
to those guys and gals, and had all their CDs and such.
Right.
But I am a huge Vanilla Ice fan, so yes, because everybody right now is yelling at me that knows me goes, why hasn't he mentioned VI? Yes, my parents made fun of me for listening to Vanilla Ice, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And now I'm just making fun of my kids' music. It's just a
Right.
generational
Right.
thing.
Yeah,
I
it's
do
generation.
not
Yeah.
get today's rap music. No, I do
No.
get
Yeah.
today's Christian hip hop music. That's what I listen
Right.
to
Right.
now. So
Right.
I get
Yeah.
Lecrae and other, but this, what do they call it? Mumble rap? See, I don't even know what it's called.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I
Well,
just don't.
I learned literally new verbiage. What we opened 7 weeks ago, so
Yeah.
I've learned new verbiage in the last 7 weeks,
Are
and I'm
you?
like,
I don't want to jump ahead here, but are you in the 6, 7 phase of life with your kids? Do you hear that?
Mike, let me tell you, we had our it was called newcoming because obviously we can't have homecoming
Oh, shit.
because we don't have nobody to come
I
home
know
to.
it comes up.
So we had
It's
our
so funny.
newcoming parade
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
with,
yeah,
I mentioned the whole green track thing, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so the elementary, the middle school, the junior high, all this, we shut down the campus, all campuses for about an hour, and
Right.
the high school athletics programs and clubs all lined up, and we threw out candy and all that. And Mike, the amount of 6, 7 I heard, literally, if I could count, it's probably over 1,000 times
My,
that I heard walking in that parade. My ears almost exploded.
I've got a freshman and a sixth grader, and they say it almost ironically, I think. Not and my wife is a substitute teacher,
Uh-huh.
and she's like, Mike, it's all they. She goes, I'll be doing something, and just someone will yell out six,
This is six,
7.
literally, and so when we're doing roll call, we'll be like, so and I teach PE as well, and so they're in roll call lines, and so we're in lines of 8, and so when I'd be like, who's number 6, and they'll be like 7, I'm just like, dude, please.
Do you know it's from a song?
Yes, it's from a song, and then it became popular, I think, on TikTok, and I'm just
Yeah.
like,
I
oh
had
my
I had to go, so
god.
I had Alexa play it, the song,
Mhm.
and I was just like, again, it was one of those songs where I was like, I don't understand the song. And then he says, the 6, 7, but it's not like it's not the title of the song. Like it's almost,
Uh-huh.
it feels like it's almost like a throwaway
Yeah,
part of the
yeah.
chorus.
Hmm.
But what's amazing to me is that it has become this meme, right? This real life meme.
Right.
The kids are saying it all the time.
Yep.
I watch. I'm a big dork, so I'm a big Fortnite
Mhm.
player. You know
Yep, yeah,
Fortnite? Yeah,
yeah.
I play Fortnite a
Uh-huh.
lot, right? And so I watched this streamer, Courage JD, and all this kind of stuff
Uh-huh.
because he's funny. And
Yeah.
he was doing this the thing inside the game, and he was trying to get as many people to follow him or whatever, right? On the
Right,
in the
right.
game, and he would start counting. It was all the audio was on, so you could hear all the other players. And he was counting. He was trying to count like the 25 people or whatever that were
Yeah.
behind him. And he goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and all the audio 6, and I was like, Courage, just count, like skip the 7, like just go one,
Yeah,
two, three, four, five,
like,
6, 8, 9, 10, like, and you'll know there's one more, but stop saying 6, 7 because he kept doing it over, and I was like, it's
oh
just,
my God.
it's
Yeah,
brain rot.
it's a movement for sure.
But what's funny is, in your time frame, you had some stupid stuff you
Yeah, yeah,
said that your parents were
yeah,
like, "What are you talking about?" And you're like, "Oh no, it's
yeah,
just cool to say." And I had it when my.
yeah.
What's fascinating to me, this fascinates me. It's one thing today. You mentioned that somewhere some freaking TikTok influencer picked up, started saying 6, 7 over and over, and it just
Mhm.
everybody in America has TikTok and all this kind of stuff, right?
Right, right.
In my day and age, there were memes and themes that everybody knew, but we didn't have social
Mhm.
media. We didn't have internet.
Right,
Like that one,
right.
that one always fascinates me. It's like, how did
Hmm.
that spread? Like I was in little no man's land, Alabama, and I
Yeah,
knew about
yeah.
stuff in New York and LA and had no
Yep,
no
yep,
internet. Like, how did I learn those? Today it's much easier, but that just
yep, yep.
fascinates me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this 6, 7 thing is,
Man.
this is my old man yelling at the clouds.
Yeah.
What?
Oh my
Stop saying
goodness.
this. It's so dumb.
And it's every age. It's from like 5 to like
I
18. I'm just
know.
like,
I
oh my God.
know. I,
Like I didn't expect it in high school. I knew obviously the younger kids, but I'm
yeah.
like, we're in high school saying this, like, please.
If there was something behind, like, oh, it's this funny music video in the 6th and 7th pick of the
Right,
basketball, at the
right,
playground.
right.
Like, okay, it's just the guy just says 6, 7, and it's just like, why? Just. You know what? Here's what I think it is. I think kids are really stinking smart, and I think
Yeah.
they know this will irritate old guys like me. And
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
not. It's
me
hard to call
too.
you an
Yeah.
old guy, CJ,
Oh
but
yeah. No, for that
you
I'm
ain't in
old.
high
Yeah.
school, so you become old automatically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think they're doing it just because they know we will just sit there and roll our eyes. I truly do. And
Right.
you know what?
Right.
Honestly, if that's what they want to do, I'd much rather them do that than some of the other bad things that they could do for
Right. Right. Right.
attention and to
Right.
make our eyes
Absolutely.
roll. So,
Yes,
boy,
sir.
I did not think I would talk for 5 minutes, have a conversation for 5 minutes today about 6'7". I love this podcast, man.
Yes, sir.
It's Friday.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
got a
Yeah.
good college football schedule. You're probably
Yeah.
actually this will publish in November, so you got to go back. We're not even in October when CJ
Yeah.
are actually doing this. So
Yeah.
CJ, I'm just having a great time. I'm so sorry. This is a little bit past our norm of how we do things. I
Right. Right.
appreciate your patience. You're awesome. You're obviously I'm vibing with you, and maybe vice versa. It's like, oh, I can just have a conversation with this dude. So I'm
Right.
just
Right.
so
Right.
grateful for you.
Yes,
So
sir.
grateful. Okay. Where are we though? Because I do want to keep your journey going. You're in
Hmm.
Kinkaid. You guys are doing awesome. You're winning state
Right.
titles. You're setting state records. How long were you there? Where'd you go next? And why did you leave? It sounds like you guys are kicking butt.
Right. So now my confidence is up, right? Like we've won two titles. Boys are doing well. I also coach football at Kinkaid, so we've won two or three titles at the time there. Starting receiver at Georgia right now, Dylan Bell, number 86 for Georgia, is currently projected to enter NFL draft next year. Josh Williams was our running back. He's playing for the Buccaneers right now.
Wow.
So we had
How big of a school?
800 kids,
I say I
but
typically think very small.
yeah,
Yeah.
but we started so it's we started at 5 years old and go to 18. So probably about 1,000 kids because like 200 per
What about just nine through 12? What would you guess to me?
9 through 12, like 450,
Yeah,
500.
yeah. Okay, that's about
Yeah.
what my high school was. I think
Yeah, so it's
about
450,
14.
500.
Wow,
And
that's
so we're doing
small.
well. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
doing well overall. It's a great school, great culture. People are great. The lunch room serves lamb chops with grape jelly. I mean, not grape jelly,
Wait,
mint jelly. Yeah,
what?
no, culinary chef. The
Shut
mint
up.
jelly. That was my first time ever having lamb chops with mint jelly, and I've never went back since. And
Wait, no,
so
not good?
no, it was great.
Oh,
Like, no, I've
oh,
never
oh. Oh,
like
you never.
gone back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. No,
never
yeah.
backtracked.
That's see, I'm always going for the lamb chops.
Yeah,
Okay, okay, okay. Are
yeah,
you
and so
serious? Holy cow.
yeah, no,
Dude, we used to have
it
those
was
reheated pizzas. That's all I had in high school.
no. They had a Starbucks, but they called it Falcon Bucks. And so that was what kids can go during their breaks and go get the Falcon
Wow.
Starbucks and all those things. And
Again,
so
I don't want to be that old man yelling at the clouds, but these kids are so soft. Are you kidding me?
it's they are definitely blessed beyond measure for
Yeah,
sure.
good for them. That's true. Good for them.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
for them.
And
Wow.
so at the
Awesome.
time, I'm also starting, substitute teaching
Hmm.
because again, eventually I want to become a teacher.
Hmm.
I'm now enrolled in college. I'm at Texas Southern University,
Yeah. Okay.
at in studying health sciences,
Hmm.
then focusing on getting my teacher certification. And
Yeah.
so that's what I'm doing during this time at Kinkaid. And so
Good for
I
you.
graduated from TSU with my bachelor's in health sciences. And then I
Hey,
go on
so
to
hold on, pause there, because I always think um, it is much harder to go to college when there's a separation after high school. It's much
right, right.
easier, June of your senior year, you
Hmm.
graduate high school and you start in August or September or whatever. It's like, oh, it's just what I've been doing for the past 4 years and really the past 12 years.
Right,
When you go into the workforce and start coach, like you've got a career going here to
right, right.
then kind of not interrupt it necessarily, but make it harder. Like you pack
Yeah.
on top of all that to go
Yeah.
back to college and get a degree. I think that's super hard. So bravo to you, brother.
Yes, sir.
That says again, that says a lot about you of like, oh,
Right.
I have a goal in mind. I'm gonna
Right.
go do that. I may not do it the way you think traditionally, like
Right.
straight out of high school. I'm gonna get a degree though, and from a
Right.
great university, Texas Southern. That's
Right.
so cool. That's inspirational to me because I could never do that. I'm done.
Right.
I'm not going
Right.
back to school. Yeah, yeah. That's awesome, dude. So you go back
Right.
and you get like a health science education type of degree?
Yeah. So it's under the education umbrella,
Yep.
but I couldn't get my certification in school. I couldn't go to the college of education because I was coaching already. And
Mhm.
so the hours that would have been spent on that
Right,
would have
right.
just been too much. And my counselor at TSU was like, "You're coaching, so you would have to stop that because you wouldn't be able to do that." And so she told me about
Right.
the alternative teacher certification program.
Hmm.
So I'm in there studying for that, and I get my certification in PE. Well, so I have it, and so So fast forward 5 years, I'm at Kinkaid 5 years.
Okay.
And my head football coach, Coach Larnett, forever grateful to him. I worked under him, and he's like, he randomly texts me. I'm at a summer track meet again, and I'll talk more about my summer club and how it's impacted, my career as well soon. But I'm at a summer track meet. I think it was actually qualifying. And I'm on the field. I'm at the 50-yard line. I'll never forget this day at Barnett Stadium in Houston, Texas. I get a call. He calls me. Now, Coach Larney don't call nobody. He usually texts you whatever he wants because he's busy, right? He's a head football coach. So he called me. I'm like, Coach Larney's called me. Am I getting fired? And so he calls me. He's like, what's up, man? You ready to be a head coach? And I'm thinking he's saying at Kinkaid. Again, you're like, why would you leave Kinkaid? Mint jelly with lamb chops. Why would I ever leave there? And he's like, are you ready to be a head coach? I'm like, yeah, I think I'm pretty good at this now. And so he's like, one of my buddies has just got the athletic director position at Houston Christian High School. And he's looking for a head track coach. And I told him about you. So then I'm like, okay, yeah, great. He sends him my information. Coach Cherry Proto calls me 20 minutes later. He was like, hey, man, you come highly recommended from Coach Larnett. He's a good friend of mine. And so I want to bring you in for an interview. And so he brings me in for an interview. And, we sit up there, and it was more like this. It was a conversation. It wasn't really an interview. It was more about my passion for Christ and what he's done for my life and what his expectations for me, for young people are. What he doesn't know is I'm already riding off of a high of, being coming from winning SBC state titles. And again, Houston Christian is in our conference, right? And I'm thinking Houston Christian ain't won nothing. We've been running against Houston Christian for 5 years. Yeah. They ain't even been in the mix, right? Like, it's not even close. And so, the conversation was more Christ-centered based and what his expectations is for a young man like myself leading Christian young men and women. Yeah. And so that was the focus of the conversation. And because he already said, he's heard about me. He believes in anybody recommended from people that he knows, he believes in them. And then he also obviously said he can sense my passion. And so the conversation was great. I was hired, went through all the hiring process. And I remember that night after the conversation, I went and looked up Houston Christian stats and what they had done. Finished in 17th place at the conference state meet, and it just was not great. Yeah. So I get to Houston Christian. I assemble my track staff. Distance coach ended up being my frat brother from college, who graduated years before me, but we're still in the same chapter, same fraternity. He ended up being my distance coach. I ended up bringing one of my female friends who coached with me who went to school with me at Texas Southern. She was a 52-400 runner at Texas Southern. So I'm bringing in people, who know track and field, right? Because the head coach is only as good as your assistant. So I bring her in. I bring in another really good coach who won district titles at Fort Bend, Austin, to come coach with me as well. Coach my jumps and coach all my jumpers. I bring in a hurdle coach who's a heptathlete at college when she was in college. So again, I got a whole staff of everybody who ran track but me, right? Yeah, right. So I got 5 coaches who ran track. So our first year, I'm coaching sprints. Now, this is where the buy-in was a little bit harder, right? Because when I got to Houston Christian, this was their 3rd year of having a new coach every year. And I'm coming from a successful program, so it's a little pull and tug both ways, right? Yeah. I'm pulling because I'm like, hey, y'all need to fall in line because I come from Kinkaid, and basically we whooped up on y'all all these years. Right. And then it's pull on their end because now these kids have now had 3 different leadership head coaches in 3 years. And one thing I know about kids, they need consistency. Yeah, just 100%. About everybody, right? Yeah. And so the first year, we have some success on the girls' side. We actually end up finishing 3rd at the state conference meet, which is the best finish in the school's history. The school opened in 1993, and that was the best finish in the school history. And so the girls do really, really well. We finished 3rd. We won a few races. We won the 4x1, did well in that. Fun fact, I didn't lose a 4x1 that I've coached in 4 years because, again, it's rolling over from Kinkaid to now, at Houston Christian. So we didn't lose a 4x1 for about 4 years when I coached one. And so we do well. We have that first year we do well. And we have one of our girls end up going to run track in college. and then one of our male jumpers ended up going to be a triple jumper in college.
Wow.
So we do well on that. And we end up breaking that first year. I think we broke 9 school records the first year.
Wow.
And then then so now the kids are starting to believe and they're buying in.
Yeah.
Then year 2, we have some transfer boys come in. And also, fun fact, we end up breaking the 4x4 SBC state record. And it ends up being the fastest ever private school 4x4 time ever ran.
Wow.
3 out of the 4 kids on that team all end up going to run in college. The 4th kid didn't run in college because he's now still a senior there now. So at the time he was a sophomore, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the kids, Jordan Ellie Stewart, who's currently now at the Air Force Academy playing football and running track.
Nice.
He ends up winning the 100, 200, and the 400 at the SBC meet. I found out from one of the long-term coaches at St. Mark's that has never been done in private school. And so he ends up winning all 4 of them. He ends up splitting 46-2 at Texas Relays.
Wow.
Ends up running 20.8 to win the 200. And 20.8, I don't care where it's at. That's a legit time, right?
100%.
Like 20.8 wins most state meets, right?
Absolutely.
Outside of 6'8",
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And so we do that. That's in year 2. Then Julian ended up going to Prairie View to run, and Dylan ends up going to Dallas Baptist.
Nice.
All 3 of them end up running under 22 seconds. I think Dylan and Julian end up running 21.7, and Jordan runs 20.8. Yeah. And then Sam is still currently at Houston Christian now, in his senior year now. And so that's what year 2 was like. And now by this time, we've now broken 16 school records.
Wow. They had to be just over the moon that you showed back up the second year. I think you're spot on when you talk about kids need consistency, right? That is typically what that is one of the factors of whether an athlete, how they progress or not, is consistency and training. Some of that stuff is held back by injuries, and then sometimes it's by a different coach every season or every 2 seasons. So I could see where there was pushback in that first year, because it's like, yeah, dude, we just got to wait you out 1 year, then there'll be a new guy. Like that's what we've had our whole time, So I think they had to be over the moon. What I'm interested in, still very young in this career, what were some of the differences you noticed at Kinkaid being an assistant coach? Now you're the head coach at Houston.
Right.
What were some of the differences you noticed, that whether it was how you had to coach, how you had to comport yourself around the staff or the team? Maybe there's differences inside the athletic department itself as far as what expectations of an assistant coach versus a head coach. What did you notice the difference between assistant coach and then 5 years later, becoming a head coach?
So the biggest difference, obviously, is dealing with parents, right? Because assistant coaches don't deal with parents. Like the parents are not emailing you about anything, right? And so where I grew as a coach and where the support was great for me was with Coach Pirtle, the athletic director, guiding me as far as how to deal as a head coach. Because again, he knows that, I've done well as an assistant coach at Kinkaid, but he also knows that this is now my first head coaching opportunity. And I've never, so I have dealt with parents, because I guess the benefit that I had is that, again, we've had a summer program. And so we've had to deal with parents. Obviously relays are the end all be all for some people, and nobody gets mad about open events, but once relays come, it's now, a tug and pull. And so that was the benefit I had having the summer program. So I've had the opportunity to deal with parents before. And then just from an administrative side, making sure scheduling is right, making sure buses are, ordered and ready to go, making sure meals are ready, making sure, and even now, and then at Houston Christian, I've always been like this, I guess you would say, within my head coaching journey, is that, I've always wanted to make sure that I put coaches on staff and hired coaches who wanted to coach and didn't want me to just give you a workout. And so I've been blessed to have that opportunity to have coaches who knew their events. And I've had the opportunity to only focus on the 1, 2, and 400, which has been my, I guess you'll say, best coaching events. And so I've had hurdle coaches, I've had throws coaches, I've had, all coaches who loved what they coached and were able to thrive in that arena. Because I forgot who said it, but you want people to want to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't want to be somebody when they get out their car, they just take a deep sigh and it's just like, oh man,
Right.
here we go again. And now this is where we're at. And so the way to do that is give coaches the opportunity to coach. Be very communicative with coaches. Make sure your expectations are set and make sure they understand that we're all here for a common goal. And I think
Mm-hmm.
once that happens, then you can become successful. And I think that's where a lot of our success at Houston Christian came from. Like I said, with Jordan, you know, winning three
Mm-hmm.
sprints and, you know, just the whole team aspect of that. It's just everybody being on the same page. We didn't end up winning the title because we were just outnumbered, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were a much smaller school. And funny enough, you mentioned my brother earlier. My brother was actually the sprint coach at his alma mater, Episcopal, and they
Oh,
won like 3 titles back to back to back. They
yeah.
ended up he was there when they had Carson Gordon, the triple jumper, who
Mm-hmm.
jumped 50 plus feet. I think he jumped like 52 feet in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had some more elite sprinters. One of my summer track kids, and I'll get on that story in a little bit. DJ Taylor, who ended up running 36 seconds in the 300 hurdles, being a top three 300-meter hurdler. He's now a freshman at Texas A&M. And so they were just loaded with talent.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't win the team title, but we were definitely felt. I never forget. We were at my mom's house for dinner, and I told my brother that Jordan would win the 1, 2, and 4 at the state meeting. He's, oh no, he'll be too tired for the 4x4, and then ends up anchoring the 4x4 to SBC record, fastest ever private school. And so, yeah.
What as you go through the Houston Christian journey, you're obviously, becoming more well-rounded as a coach, meaning,
Mhm.
I love the distinction between assistant coach. I don't really have to deal with parents, scheduling. That's someone else does that. But now as the head coach, you've got to do all that, buses, meals, etc. Have you added anything to your coaching education? Like you talked about the one,
Oh
two,
yeah.
and four, kind of your bread and butter.
Oh yeah.
How are you continuing to evolve positively as a sprint coach?
So during this time, I attend Vince Anderson's clinic at St. John's School, which
Yeah.
was a great all day clinic.
Mhm.
Now I'm a part of the TTFCHA, and
Yep.
we're there every year.
Good, good.
We're doing online training.
I got to give a shout out to TTFCA, Texas Track and
Yeah.
Field Coaches Association. Every January they have their clinic in Waco now,
Yep.
and first class. I go to a lot of clinics, Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota, etc., Ohio, some of the biggest ones around. And I tell you, TTFCA is up at the top there. The speakers that show up there, the camaraderie amongst that. So if you're in Texas and you haven't been to the convention, it's literally, I think it's the very first weekend of
Yes. Yes.
January. You
Right.
need to go. If you're from out of state and you can make it into Waco, I'd highly recommend you come visit. We had a recent guest here on the podcast, Jason Cage from Westlake High School in Georgia,
Mhm.
many, many state titles. I think it was this past year. I'm walking around because I kind of do a host and MC thing there at TTFCA.
Mhm.
I'm so
Yeah.
blessed that they allow me to be involved like that and to uplift and honor coaches in that format. And I turn my head and there's Jason Cage. I'm like, wait a minute, say Georgia, what are you doing here? And he's like, man, he goes, you go where the coaches are to learn. And so I just want to give a
Mhm.
shout out to we got like a whole new board and leaders there at TTFCA that are going to do, Jessica and June Villars, who again another Gill Connections
Mhm.
podcast alum, that are just going to continue to lead us there in Texas high school track. Very proud of them. Greg Williams, the executive director there, just going to do a fantastic job. They've got a big shoes to fill with Stu, but I think the future is very good there. So if you haven't checked it out, go. If you just Google TTFCA convention or something like that, it'll bring it up. Highly recommend you check that out. So I'm glad you go there and do that because that's phenomenal. They just do a great job there. So you're doing that. You're going to listen to other speakers. Vince and Tony Vini has been there. Sue Humphreys. You go there to listen to those guys and
Yep.
gals. Awesome.
Yep. So yeah, we attend that every year since I started when I was at Kinkaid, and
Hmm.
it's been every year since.
Nice.
And so just picked up knowledge, just more and more knowledge on just how sprint training really looks and what that looks like. And so during this time also, I have a summer track program, and
Yeah,
so
that's where I was going
um,
next. Yep. Hmm.
yeah, so our summer track program, me, Devontae Taylor, and Ramsey Taylor, a husband and wife couple. Again, I was coaching 5 and 6 year old football, so this is where I met them at. And Ramsey Bethany Taylor's dad is Dave Bethany from Texas Southern. the head coach for Texas Southern. And so, in honor of him, we reignite, I guess you could say, the Dave Bethany Track Club, and we name it the Dave Bethany Elite Track Club.
Wow.
And during that time, we started with one athlete, their son, who DJ Taylor, who, like I said, is now a freshman at Texas A&M. SBC title, 36 seconds in the 400. I mean, in the 300 hurdles, wins all the major meets, Texas A&M, Texas Relays, and Arcadia. Wins all three of those meets. And so obviously I think when you win Arcadia, Texas Relays, and Texas A&M Blue Bonnet, you're
probably pretty good. Yeah,
you're pretty good. And so he wins those meets. And so we start with him when he's 7 years old. We start with him because, again, I could just went back to CL Stars. That's where family is. That's easy. But, I've now developed this relationship with these people, and they have a vision, and we have a vision together. And so we start that program. Fast forward, we have 50 plus now junior Olympic medalists. In 2020, what's this, 2025? So in 2020,
I gotta ask myself the same thing.
No, 2024, excuse me. Yeah, 2024. We end up breaking the 13, 14-year-old boys 4x1 record, national record, and 4x4 national record.
What's the I have such reverence for summer club coaches. I tried when I first moved here. We had a pretty successful summer club here called Muhammad Heat, and so I tried to coach them because, and I say try because just working a 9 to 5, it's just impossible. But I remember going to the first, this is what broke me. I went to the first meet, the first and only meet I could make. I went, and no one was raking the long jump pit, right? So I'm I'll do that, So I'm raking the long jump pit, and kids are just jumping and jumping and jumping and it's hours because of all the age groups,
Right.
And it's just it's going on forever. And then the triple jump starts, and I remember hearing, I couldn't see the track because of the stands, but I remember hearing that Heat 13 of the 100-meter dash. I'm like, whoa,
that's normal for summer track and
right. I was like, I can't do that. So every time I would, I used to teach USATF level 1s and things like that. I'll always ask, raise your hand if you're a high school coach, raise your hand if you're college. I was like, raise your hand if you're a club coach. People raise their hand, and I'm like, God bless you, because you have to have just a crap ton of patience to make that work. Being now an experienced high school coach and obviously an experienced summer coach, what are the help me understand, because I don't know much about the summer club experience, what I see on social media and stuff. What are the positives versus negatives of the two different, you see what it takes for high school, you see what it takes for summer. Kind of walk us through your experiences, good and bad, and all between.
Right. So, again, I started from grassroots training, figuratively and literally, right? I started with 5 and 6-year-old babies. And so that's always been the soft spot for me, because I feel like once we get them there at that age, we can really teach them and grow their minds. Because when you get them at 15, 16, they're already set in their ways, right? But when we get them younger. And so the most positive thing is we start our summer program at 5 and 6, and we go to 18, right, and where they age out. And so the great thing about our program is that most of our kids have been in our program since they were 5 and 6. I was just at a game last night for one of my kids, Jaden Warren, who's a 4-star receiver commit, about 6'2", 200 pounds, ran 10-1 in high school. And he's been with us since he was 7 years old in our program. Wow. And so we've had the great opportunity to see all these kids grow up. And so that's one of the biggest positive things. We have a great family support. We're not a big major club. We have about 100 kids, and that's on purpose, right? It's because
you're not a major club and you have 100 kids. I was waiting for you to say 30, 100.
No. Yeah, we're about 100. Yeah. And so, and that's on purpose because we want to make sure that we're able to really teach and coach.
If you said you're more of a smaller club at 100, what do big clubs have? Maybe I have no idea here.
You have clubs, and of course, shout out to Track Houston, who have 500, 600. You got clubs with 300.
You know what? I met those guys at Nike Outdoor National because they were actually, I told them it was kind of cool. The coaches, when they'd come into the coaches social, they all wore the same jacket.
The same thing. Yep.
And it looked hot. I mean, they just really looked on point. I remember going to them, I was like, you guys win the best dressed awards. Like, holy cow. They did tell me, I remember asking about it, and they did tell me, hundreds of kids and training center over here because they just have so many. Okay. But that's not the norm either, right? Like there's not
No.
No,
most clubs don't have that many. No.
Yeah.
No, most clubs will fluctuate between the 80 to 150, 200 range. You have about 3 or 4 who are probably closer to 300. And then Track Houston is by far the biggest in the Houston, if not the nation. They're probably sure they're the biggest club in the nation.
They got to be
And
pushing it, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right. And so,
Wow.
the opportunity to race those guys every year, every summer, we look forward to, because it's a healthy battle. It's never a rivalry if only one person wins, right?
That's right.
But it's always a rivalry when it goes back and forth. And so when we broke the national record, Track Houston was, I think, second in the 4x4 and third in the 4x1. And that's
Wow.
yearly, right? And so they push us to be better. And Houston is so big but it's so small. And people don't realize, oftentimes a lot of other states say, oh, Texas is always just loading up on talent and they just run relays. Well, the reality of it is my club is around 3 other clubs within a 5-mile radius. And so if that was the case, if we actually loaded up,
Yeah.
we would have a 14U team run 40 point and not
Yeah.
4207,
Take the
which is
best from
still
here, here,
unheard
here,
of,
here.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because the
Right.
funny part is about that team is that the year we broke the national record in the 4x1, we broke the national record every meet.
Wow.
We ran the race 5 times and we broke it every 5 times. We were the only team to ever run. We were only one other team, excuse me,
Yeah.
ran under 42 seconds. I'm under 43 seconds in that age group, and we ran it 5 times.
So one of the things I'm insanely curious about, like you know me well enough from social
Mm-hmm.
media and TTFCA. I I position myself because, first of all, because there's no one else doing it, and so I
Right,
felt, see a need, fill a need.
right,
Advocacy for track coaches, right?
right,
And part of that advocacy is education,
right,
professional development. Like, I
right,
want you to make more as a track coach. I don't care,
right, right,
I love that you do it for the kids, but you
right,
should also be paid. That's
right,
your mortgage doesn't get paid on love for kids, right?
right.
And so one of the things that I'm really interested in, I've had this talk with a few people, and it's not a Texas thing. This is throughout probably all 50 states, but it certainly has reared its ugly head in Texas a lot, is this
Mhm.
battle between club coaches and high school coaches. Now, yeah, you knew we were going to get there. Yeah, you
Yeah.
uniquely sit on both sides of that fence.
Right, right, right,
From your seat, obviously there's not an I say obviously there's not an issue between well, your now current school and your former schools
right.
and
Yeah,
your club, because you run
right,
both. But how do we help? I don't want to say bridge the gap, because there shouldn't be a gap, but there is certainly an
right.
animosity,
There is, there
and
is.
not everybody, but there's
Hmm.
enough. There's animosity between high school coaches and club coaches,
Right,
and you could probably speak better to it, being focused on Texas versus the country. But
right,
how do we get on the same page with our high
right,
school coaches and our club coaches, from where you see your experience on both sides there?
right. So yeah, so I think, when I first got to Tomas, and I think that was the first thing we talked about, right? Is that, when you're in season, you're here, right? Like that has to be a thing. Um, you know, I think a lot of times what I've seen in coaching is that a lot of high school track coaches are not necessarily track coaches, and they're football coaches, right?
Hmm.
This is a conversation me and my other director had
Hmm.
within in my interview. Is like,
Right.
what we're seeing a lot of is there are a lot of football coaches
Hmm.
coaching track and field.
Hmm.
And like I said, from someone like me who came in with very, very little knowledge, aka no knowledge of track and field 15 years ago,
Right.
to winning, titles and records and
Hmm.
all those things. It doesn't take you being a 10-1, 10-2, 9-second athlete yourself to be a very good coach. We see
Right.
that in the NFL a lot, right?
That's right.
That a lot of the greatest NFL coaches weren't really great athletes,
That's right.
right?
Hmm.
But it's the dedication and passion to learning,
Hmm.
right? And so for me, and this is my stance on it, and this is to anybody, is that there are too many coaching opportunities out here, too many professional development opportunities for coaches who coach the sport not to become better. And that's where we see the biggest issue is that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, on one hand, I very much agree with you. Now, I hear this, it's kind of the same argument, where I hear arguments of high school coaches versus club coaches. I will also hear this, less of an argument, more of a belittling
Mhm.
of college coaches. And again, it's not even the majority
Hmm.
of this. The majority of club coaches and high school coaches, in my experience, are getting along. By the way,
Yeah, yeah.
this is my utopian. I want everybody to get along, right? And
Right,
it's certainly
right.
not the majority of college coaches, but there are. I'll see this on social media a lot, where
Hmm.
much like you just said there, they will. These are my words. I'm not putting words in your mouth. They'll
Right,
complain about the high school coach that doesn't, air quotes here, know how to coach, doesn't know how to coach
right,
the
right.
100, the
Yeah.
sprints, et cetera, right? And I have a lot of grace for our high school coaches
Hmm. Oh yeah.
who are typically teachers. And I'm
Right,
like, dude, that person, and I've gotten way more uh, uh, grace and passion since my wife became a long-term sub. So now I get to
right.
see more behind the scenes of grading and
Yeah.
things like that. These guys and gals are working, 7 to 3, teaching, grading,
I wish.
all the other stuff that they do, and they're coaching.
Right.
uh, they don't have
Yeah.
by the way, they have families, they have passions,
Right.
charities, etc. They don't have the resources, time, or desire. It's a priority thing
Hmm.
to go to clinics and things like this, right? But I do
Right.
think they are doing the best that they can. I don't think they're doing anything malicious. Even I told you the experience of my high school coaches,
Hmm.
terrible, right? You'd laugh. I mean, literally, it's okay to laugh at what the training I did in
Yeah.
high school. It's like, oh, that's ridiculous. That's why I love Dennis Anderson. That's why I have no problem saying his name out loud. I love
Hmm.
Dennis Anderson because he was doing the best he could. He wasn't trying to
Right.
injure us. He wasn't trying to hurt us. He wasn't trying to
Hmm.
make, he was doing what as good as he could do. And I bless him
Right.
for that. He kept me in the sport. I mean, God bless here. 30 years later, I'm still
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
sport. He didn't
Yeah.
run me out. So I agree with you. There's a ton. I mean, we can go on YouTube, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I think there are coaches who were coached. I almost said coached like you, but you weren't coached.
Right. Right. Right.
I think there are, maybe this is a better way of saying it. I think there are kids that were coached the way you first started out coaching. That's a fair
Hmm.
statement. Who that's all they know. They
Hmm.
loved their coach. They loved you. They love the sport. They've always been a big Olympics fan or something. And so they get into coaching, and that is how they coach. And when they're presented with another alternative, like, well, actually acceleration work and max fly, it's like, yeah, but that's hard.
Right. It
I'm
is.
I'm having success.
Right.
We are fourth or fifth, or maybe they won their conference.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Why should I?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Right.
If it ain't
Right.
broke, don't fix it.
Right.
And,
Right.
and honestly, getting fourth or fifth or whatever in your conference, that's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
In track and field, we sometimes forget how hard it is to win. You mentioned,
Yes.
Fort Bend Marshall
Yes.
winning 10 in a row. I don't care. You caveated that within Texas, and you're right. In Texas,
Right.
that's
Right.
hard.
Right.
Guess what? If a coach wins 10 in a row in Maine,
That's a lot. Yeah.
holy crap!
Yeah.
You win
Consistency.
you win 10 in a row in New Mexico. I don't care where you are.
Right.
I don't care
Yep.
where you are. Tech,
Yep.
you in the biggest division of Texas, the biggest. Well, there's only one division in California. I don't
Right.
care. That's
Hmm.
hard.
Right.
It's
Right.
absolutely
I
hard.
agree.
Kudos. You win one, bravo. You win two, you're a genius. You win three, what the hell? Four? I'm out of words after four. Like, what do you mean you won
Yeah.
4 in a row? That's just dumb. That's
Right.
just crazy.
Right.
No one
Right.
does that, right? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get what you're saying. Uh, so how do we? Okay, and at the same time, when I hear club coaches complain, or high school coaches, by the way, complain the other way, of
Yep.
like, oh,
Yep.
you guys just think you know it all, and you,
Yep.
you
Yep.
want to
Yeah.
run my
Yeah.
practices. And by the way, I'm at a high school, so I have a team.
Right.
No matter
Right.
what you
Right.
think about track and field as a team or individual, I have a team, and yet Johnny gets
Yes.
to go to club and doesn't have to show
Right.
up for practice.
Right.
How do I
Right.
tell that to my other 14? You talk about kids.
And
I tell my
that,
other 14, 15-year-old kids, right?
and I personally have not, in my, I guess, time from even Kinkaid to Houston Christian to, so at Houston Christian, my first year, that was a little bit of an issue, but it was very small,
Mhm.
right? It was nothing that lingered on a long time. It was kind of the standard was set, and it kind of that's what it was.
Mhm.
And so I personally have not had issues, but I've had colleagues who've had major
Yeah,
issues with
yeah,
that. And you hit the nail on the head, right? Is okay, yes, I have a superstar, right? Because there are superstars on teams who needs a different kind of training.
Oh, I don't know if
And
I agree with that.
but
Keep going. We're
well,
gonna come
well,
back
who
to that.
needs?
We're gonna
Yeah,
come back
okay,
to that.
yeah.
Keep going. Keep
Well,
going.
who needs whatever whatever they think they need. And but
That's
but but
bro.
how do I explain to 15, 20, 30 other girls or boys why this person has now left practice, how this person just shows up to the meet, what kind of team chemistry, what kind of continuity, what kind of culture am I building?
Amen.
And because I haven't had really that problem in my high school journey. And even now at Gene Tomas, I've been blessed to not only have a great staff, but have kids who are so invested in what we're trying to do. I'm looking at social media and in our first official after school practice, because we practice in the period right now, but our first official after school practice starts Monday. And I'm seeing them posting about practice starting Monday and how excited I'm walking through the halls
That's
and kids
cool.
are asking me about practice. And again, this is a brand new campus that opened 7 weeks ago. So it's the energy that we've given is the energy that's being
Yeah,
received by these kids and they're excited.
that's
And so
cool.
I've been blessed enough not to really have that issue.
Yeah,
But as a summer coach, I've had high school coaches,
yeah.
I guess have an opinion about us without even talking to us. But if anybody knows, I run one of the most successful summer programs in the country. And so anybody that knows us knows that we aren't hands-on with our kids until
Mhm,
postseason.
mhm.
We just aren't.
I think the thing that bears repeating that you just said there is you said, people will have problems with me without even talking to me. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
ultimately the issue.
Always,
I hate
always
to
a problem.
I hate to boil it down to like this oversimplification, but communication. We
Mm-hmm.
always talk about how important it is,
Yeah,
and it should be the easiest
yeah.
thing in the world, especially today, right? I can DM you, I can
It's
text
it's so
you,
easy. It's so easy.
and yet
It's so easy.
it's the hardest thing in the
But
world.
we have such a bad, a negative connotation because again, Mike, if you're ever in Texas and come to a summer meet, you're gonna see us with 20 different uniforms. We're flashy. We have fun. That's
Mhm.
what my club is about.
Yeah.
I really believe in having fun. We got different themes of uniforms. And so when people think about my club, they're like, oh, they probably think they're better. I had
Mhm.
last year we had a 13-year-old girl run 55 seconds. She's a seventh grader. We've had seventh grade boys jumping 22 feet in long jump.
Right.
And so I think the idea of my club is that and it's been said because the area that we're in the Houston area, we have a lot of former pro athletes, right,
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
our team, and
Right.
so I think people feel like that their club is only for pro athletes. Like
Mhm.
Adrian Peterson's son was second leg on my relay at Adidas Nationals this year.
Mhm.
We went to Adidas Nationals and broke that national record this past summer.
Right.
And so I think they feel like, because we have all these former pro
Mhm.
athletes that we think we're better and that
Yeah.
we're unapproachable, which in reality is that total opposite.
Yeah.
My coaching staff is comprised of former college and pro athletes. Again, the same thing in school.
Yeah.
All my coaching staff has
Right.
either been pro or been at the highest collegiate level you can be at.
Right.
Tremont Williams, Super Bowl champion for the Green Bay Packers, and all things like that. And so,
Well, CJ,
um,
I'm going to challenge you, because you do sit at a fairly unique place of being a high school coach and, excuse me, a club coach.
right,
So you are uniquely positioned to help
right,
communication, right?
right.
So I'm going to challenge you in maybe two different ways. One is if you think that the perception of your club is that, oh, we're unapproachable because, we happen to have former pro athletes, kids on our teams and all that kind of stuff, and we're flashy. I'm not telling you to be apologetic
Right,
for your clothing choices and things like that. I don't care about that. I think that's fun. I think sports should be fun, and if that's what the kids find fun, then
right,
who
right.
am I to say you should wear nothing but white jerseys all the time? Who cares, right? I don't.
Yeah.
It's not my place to judge. But if you think that that's the perception, then I want you to really. My challenge to you would be and use your coaching staff
Hmm.
and maybe you probably have some kind of trusted, almost like an advisory board,
Right,
uh
right.
like really like sit down and have a discussion of like, well, why is that?
Hmm.
What can we be doing differently? And again, that doesn't mean like, oh, let's go down to 2 uniforms versus 20 or whatever.
Yeah.
But maybe that's how you post on social, maybe that's how
Hmm.
you interact with other coaches at meets, et cetera, et cetera. But make it to where people go, oh, wait a minute, they are approachable. Like
Yeah.
what we've been missing out. So
Yeah.
that's one
Yeah.
challenge. The second challenge is to take leadership in between these two very passionate groups, high school track coaches and club track coaches, and be that bridge. If we're supposed to be bridging a gap, figure out whether that means speaking at TTFCA about how do you run a high school and a club program. How do you work with club coaches? And by the way, I've been at both. So I'm on both sides, so I can speak, from experience on that. Whether it's that, getting on other podcast, Texas Track Dads podcast,
Yeah.
raise, things like that. I think that, you're uniquely positioned there to
Right.
you're making a huge difference in young people's lives. And that is that
Right.
is where the bar starts. And I'm grateful for that. I just think you have such a personality and experience, and just kind of a really humble, authenticity to you that I think you can, move. You're leading in the coaching space. I think there's another step that you could take in leading in the coaching space, not the coaching athlete space, but the coaches
Right.
professionalism case. I just want to challenge you for that because
Yes, sir.
it's a real problem that the only people who suffer are the kids.
The kids.
That is
Yeah.
what my ultimate problem. It's like, man, you adults are bickering,
Yeah.
and that 13-year-old kid is the one who is suffering
Right,
for it.
right. Yeah, and that's what it is. That's literally
Yeah,
what it is that
yeah.
now, because there's a power struggle now, kids are, not getting, what they need. And so yeah, it's such I guess a gray space that
It's a
really could be black and
bad
white.
ego place is what it
Right,
is. It's
right,
ego, right?
right.
It's fear of rejection, it's fear of judgment. That there's a book you might actually, if you haven't read this book, it's a football story, so it maybe more resonates to our football type coaches. But it's called The Twin Thieves. Have you heard
Hmm.
this book? Yeah,
No, sir.
I would encourage you to read it. I can't remember I think it's two authors. They're football coaches, and
Hmm.
again, the story is based in football. But it's the twin thieves. It's two things that rob us of just joy in life and advancement, etc. And that's
Hmm.
judgment and rejection. That
Yeah,
those are
yeah,
the two thieves in life.
yeah.
Rejection and uh, um, judgment,
Right.
rejection of judgment. You would enjoy. I think you enjoy that. But the guys did a
Yeah.
great job reading it and did a fantastic job. All of our track coaches should read that. We need a book from track's perspective because that Twin Thieves is a great book, and again, it's football themed.
Hmm.
And then there's another book, good friend, actually a Gill podcast alum as well, Todd Gonger, wrote Lead for Jesus' sake or Lead for Christ's sake. I can't remember. I think it was
Hmm.
Jesus' sake. Lead for Jesus' sake. And that's basket. He was a basketball guy. His dad was a big, longtime
Gotcha.
basketball coach. But again, just one of those, just fantastic books our coaches should be reading. Lead for God's sake. That's what it is. Sorry, Todd. Lead for God's sake. And if you want to know more about that book, again, whatever app you're using right now, just search Todd Gonger and it'll bring that up. And then the Twin Thieves. So those are basketball and football theme. I got to figure out someone's got to write, and you know what? Maybe it's me. I've got to write a track theme for our track coaches.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But that's my challenge to you, my friend. Okay, let's keep going, CJ. You're at Houston Christian. Do we go from Houston Christian to Gene Tomas? Because I want to make sure
yeah,
I spend time. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
why? And maybe some obvious reasons of like, holy cow, it's a clean slate. I find this fascinating.
Right. So we're fast forwarding now. We're in the year. This is 2025. So yeah. So we're in this year. This is
Hmm.
this year. So
Yeah.
we're in March of 2025, and so I'm in the private school sector, teaching, coaching, whatever. And so now I'm like, I feel like I've done a lot in private school. I didn't win a state title, but individually, with the 30, 25 man and woman team I have, we do very, very well. And so now I'm in Texas, right? So Texas high school track is different, right? And so, I'm wanting to be challenged more. And so now I'm like, hey, I've done really well. I've developed some good athletes in private school. About 15 athletes end up going and running in college during my time, at Houston Christian and Kinkaid on the sprint side. And then we had more in jumps and throws and stuff like that. But on the sprint side, about 15 athletes have gone and run at, Division I, Division II, all levels of track and field.
Right.
And so I feel like I've done what I can do here. And so I look on Lamar CISD's website, and they're like, new school coming, the new green track. And again, remember I told you I thought the green track was that the school is actually going to have a green track, so I got excited about that. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to get that. That's a cool track. And so now we're again. Remember, I'm and I want something. I'm gonna go get it. And so they named the head football coach / athletic director as his campus coordinator. And immediately I reach out to Coach Johnson. I'm like, hey, my name is Cjay Brown. I'm currently the head coach of Houston Christian. Above all else, I love coaching kids, but first and foremost. Before I tell you anything about what I've done on my resume, if you will, I love coaching kids. So he emails me back. I tell him on my resume, da da da. He emails me back, and he sets up an interview. Also, fun fact: Lamar CSD has a school named after my great grandfather, Willie Milton Elementary. It's on the purple track.
What? Wow.
And so my great grandfather was a civil rights activist, and he assisted with getting worked with Thurgood Marshall and assisted with getting blacks to vote in Fort Bend County area.
Wow. Nice.
But I intentionally left that out of my interview because I wanted to be hired on who I am
Right.
and not who my grandfather was.
Right.
And so I made sure I never mentioned that in my interview. I told people after, but that was never my selling point for myself in my interview because I wanted to be hired based on my merit alone.
Yeah.
And we get an interview. I interview with Coach Johnson first. Just very real chill, kind of almost like the Houston Christian interview, just telling me his expectations of what he wants the program to look like. Letting me know that he is a guy who is not just hiring somebody to fill a position, but he's a guy who wants track people to coach track and field.
Right.
And so I interviewed him, end up interviewing then I get my official interview where I'm wearing, the suit and tie thing, with him and the principal, because again, my campus isn't built yet because it's brand new. And so we're interviewing at another
Wow.
high school.
Oh,
I'm meeting him at
right.
another high school. Yeah. High school in the district.
Oh,
I'm
yeah. They
meeting
they
them
can't
there.
even like give you a tour of the school. It's
There's
being
nothing,
built.
Mike.
Wow.
We're literally, again, this is around like March. I forget the exact date, but this is around the March time, right? Because so campus is literally gravel and a few stones. So I drive by because again, I believe in prayer and all those things. And so I'm driving by daily, because this is what I want for my life. And if this is what God wants for me, I want to make sure I take that. I know that, I can do the work in it, right? And so now it's just up to God to determine if this is where I should be in my current path in life. And so he calls me back. He's like, hey, we got the position for you. Again, reiterates the expectations of what he wants for the program. And so we get the ball rolling on that, go through the HR process, everything, and I end up getting hired.
Wow.
I think like a month later, maybe a little bit after, he hires the girls coach. Now, the girls coach I'm familiar with because she also has a summer program, and we've competed against each other and for years. And so I'm like, yes, this is great. The female coach that is hired is someone who also loves track and field, right? And is someone who I know I can work well. She's also young like me. We're not 60, 70 years old, and so we're also young. So we kind of still a little bit bring in that with our kids, and that the fact that we're not a little bit older, and so the relatability is still there a little bit. Don't listen to mumble rap. So when they start playing that, I'm just like, what is that? But them still keeping me young currently because I'm learning new terms that they use. And I'm just like I didn't know my ball meant like my girlfriend or my boyfriend.
Yeah, I lost that
Like
one.
one of my kids, like, that's not my ball. I'm like, what does that even mean? And so now, Mike, when you go to
My
your kids,
ball, like BALL,
when you
my
go to your
ball.
kids, yes, when you go to your son, say, tell him your wife is your ball. And so
I
ask him
got
if he knows what that means.
I,
And so
I can say this because I'm pretty sure he does not listen to my podcast. I don't think my son's cool enough to say that, bro. I think my kid would look at me like I'm an idiot, which he does he's a teenager, so he does it on a daily
yeah,
basis.
yeah. And
That's not
so
my ball.
that's not my ball.
What a weird thing, because what they're doing is from back in the day when we were playing on
Right.
the courts, it's like, oh, that's my
Um,
ball. It's my ball. It's like
mhm.
your ball. No, it's my ball. And now they just
Right.
equate that to your
And they now into
spouse or your boyfriend,
relationships.
girlfriend. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
relationship. Yeah,
And
that's
so,
silly.
so she gets hired. I'm excited about that. We established very early on that we're going to make sure that we make this program together. Because I was at one, and it's funny, even before we came to and you were there, the San Antonio convention with all sports, right? And Aries Mary spoke,
Yeah,
and I forget the coach from McKinney Boyd's name. And
Jessica.
yeah,
Yeah,
and she
Richards, Jessica
yeah,
Richards.
Jessica
Yeah,
Richards.
yeah, she was
And she
awesome.
stated,
Yeah.
yeah, she was. She was very informative again, continued education, because you can
Hmm.
never know too much, right?
Sure.
And she stated that the boys and girls program at their school was combined, and
Right.
that's how they ran their program. And so
Right.
that's how we are running our program.
Good.
So I'll coach the 100, 200 runners. Coach Owens will coach the 2-4 runners.
Sweet.
We have a distance coach who comes from Fulshire High School, Coach King, who won multiple district titles there. So he's a program development,
Right.
and he actually opened up that school when that opened 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
So he has experience in that realm. Our throws coach comes in with experience, hurdle coaches and jumps coaches.
Yeah.
And so we're running just one big program together. And we've seen just in these 6 weeks, we've seen kids who, so we pulled from feeder schools, obviously. I mean, not feeder schools, excuse me. We pulled from nearby schools to form, Tomas High School.
Right.
And so we've seen in the 6 weeks where we've been in our general prep phase, where we're lifting weights, we're getting stronger.
Yeah.
And we've seen strength growths and everything in our kids, whereas they said they didn't do any of this last year.
Right.
And so we're looking at their times and we're like, okay, so you ran pretty decent last year, and you didn't even have a strength base. And to be strong, to be fast, you have to be strong, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be a bodybuilder, but you have to do lifts that are cohesive with sprinting and running fast, right? And so we're seeing that right now. We're seeing in our 6 weeks we've been in school that we're getting stronger.
Yeah.
And so that's been a plus for us, for kids who have not been in programs like that.
This is fascinating because you're explaining all these things and you haven't had a single in-season practice or meet. This isn't February or March, for crying out loud.
No.
You still have months to go. What
Right.
You've had different schools, and there's something about even Houston Christian, where you came in and they had 3 different coaches in 3 years. There was still things that were already in place, right? Like there were uniforms. You may have to fill in. There were uniforms.
Yeah.
There might have been a schedule already, and you might have altered it, but we had meets that we went to, and and all this other stuff. There was a budget that was already set.
Right.
Here, you're coming in with a clean slate. And on one hand, that's very exciting. On the other hand, it's like
a lot of work.
A little daunting.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
What's got you concerned the most? Like when you think about, okay, the first practice is on February 1 or whatever day it is, and we got to go all the way through season, and districts are here and regionals are here. I can't remember the sequence, but what's like when you're looking at it because there's always concern. Like when you even looking in your third year at Houston Christian, you're like, oh man, I got to replace this leg here, and we got to, hopefully this new freshman can do this, yada yada. You don't know anything. Like you're going through, you had some period practices, and now you're about to go through some after school practices. So you'll start learning the kids and things like that, but they still haven't competed for you. As you're kind of staring into the future, what's got you concerned the most?
So honestly, Mike, not much, honestly. I feel like, and again, this, and I keep saying this because it's true. It speaks to, the staff that we've brought together. Like we've had some experienced people who have been in opening schools, who have been in leadership positions themselves, who have the same visions we do. If anything that concerns me within year 1 of this year for us, would just be that we're young, right? And I've said this to everybody I've come in contact with. This is a 3-year process for us. Not saying we're leaving in 3 years, but in 3 years we'll be where we'll compete at state level.
Right.
But honestly, Mike, we'll have kids this year compete at regionals. Like we really believe that, just because we've seen some of them before, we know that, I'm not saying that obviously our program is the only thing that works, but we know that the things we've put on them so far, they've responded well to. We're seeing that when we go into the weight room during our period and they have 7 minutes to get there and start stretching and start, rolling out and targeting stuff like that, that they're coming in, taking the initiative of doing that already. And again, these are only freshmen, sophomores, and a few juniors, because again, most juniors aren't leaving their campus that they were at to come to a brand new school, because they're friends and everything, programs, and they've been moved up to varsity, so they have the option to stay where they're at. And so we're really talking about 14, 15-year-olds who are coming in, taking that initiative, doing what we ask them to do while still having fun. We run a program to where it's not a military base. We want you to still listen to music. We want you to still have fun. Not your music, though. We play the music, because you can't have headphones and stuff in the weight room. You can't have Crocs in the weight room. You can't have an other school shirt in the weight room. If you have the shirt on, you have to turn it inside out. And they're doing that. We're seeing the initiative taken. And so when you say, you ask what concerns me, just them getting into the fire, and because we're throwing them in their first meet. Our schedule's already made out. We've been working on that since May. That's already laid out. Our season, our I guess you would call it master schedule for the season, is pretty much done. The biggest thing is just to make sure we get uniforms and stuff in time, right?
Yeah.
Like, it has nothing to do with actual track, but
Right.
making sure that we get everything, because you obviously know, working in sales and things like that, how equipment is, making sure we got everything. We got state-of-the-art hurdles, a beautiful hurdle set. But again, that comes with having athletic leadership who loves track as well.
Right.
Because
Right.
it's very
Right.
easy for athletic director, aka football coach, because in Texas, the
Right.
campus coordinator is the football coach.
Right.
It's very easy for them to only worry about football.
That's right.
But to have a coordinator and coordinators who care about track just as they do football, that gives us an easy job to do.
Yeah.
And we're excited about the opportunity. I would be lying if I said it hasn't been a lot of work, because you mentioned earlier 7 to 3. Mike, my day starts, because I also coach football. My day starts at 4:00 in the morning.
Wow.
And my day ends at about 9-10 every night.
Oh man.
And so but when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity, just like you had the opportunity to come and talk to people. I had the opportunity to go every day and impact kids' lives. I had the opportunity to wear basketball shorts to work. That's my time. And then when I take a shower after practice, I change to more basketball shorts. Right. I worked at Bank of America for 1 week, Mike, when I was 20 years old, and hated every minute of it. I have the opportunity, when you work with kids, especially in a high school setting, it's no day is the same.
Yeah.
No day is the same.
Yeah.
And so the most challenging part is me just being grounded and not getting too excited for the season to actually.
Yeah, that's right.
And go through the process of all our phases of prep, and not putting the wagon before the horse, if you will.
Yeah, that emotional regulation is very important. Yeah.
Just staying even keel and understand that this is a process. Because again, I was at Houston Christian where, the uniform stuff was already there, but it was also, I had to go to a place where I had to break down a culture that wasn't, productive, because they hadn't seen that. And I had to build a culture of, this is how we're going to do things. This is how we're going to warm up. We had kids that came there when they wanted to practice and stuff to warm up. Our kids got 7 minutes from bell to bell at Gene Tomas High School to get where they need to be.
Right.
And we have things in place that are called character adjustment, because we still love you. We still love you. Mike, on my team, you have to on our team, you have to keep a grade point average of 85 or better.
Okay.
UIL says you only have to have a 70 or better. That's not good enough for us.
Right.
Our first 6 weeks came out, Mike, and we had 23 kids on honor roll.
Yeah, wow.
In the first 6 weeks. Wow. But what they have to understand is, first 6 weeks, this is not even track season. So that's good.
Right.
But we need the consistency. Yeah. It's not about who does it first. It's not about who does it best, but it's about who does it the most consistent.
Right.
And so for us, that's big.
It's amazing. You talked about having a coordinator who's the football coach, and they care about track, so uniforms and equipment, hurdles, things like that, which it's amazing. That's my world, right? Track and field. But that also has to occur for the volleyball team and the basketball teams and the baseball and softball teams and the tennis and whatever other sport. It's so daunting to open up a new school. That's really amazing.
Oh man, it's cow. We've all been, I think the consensus around all the head coaches within the program is that we're so excited, but it has been work, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
And I never thought it'd be this much work, but I'm enjoying every minute of it.
That's cool.
It's fun work. That's cool. I never forget this summer, because again, you don't get a summer when you're opening up a new school.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's a good point.
Like, we got into the teacher profession because we get 2 months off in the summer. That was not the case this summer. Maybe next summer, but it won't even still be that long. But this summer, I worked from May, because again, I'm still running summer track, and thankfully, Junior Olympics was held in Houston this year, so I didn't have to travel this year to go to Junior Olympics, so that was a blessing. And so I was able to get my work done and then still make Junior Olympics meets for my summer program. But I think about in the summer, it's 100 some degrees, and we're out there putting together hurdles. Those are the things that was a lot of work then that we look back on now. And it's like, that was so much fun, because to have the blessing, opportunity to be blessed with the opportunity to even, leave that mark. I remember when, Mark, we were able to set up hurdles, when we were able to put everything in our, culture, right? We haven't even ordered a record board, because for what? Everything is a record board. Everything,
that's right.
But we have the opportunity to go and order a record board, how we want it to look. And that's the good thing about, with having an AD like Coach Johnson. He was like, it's your program. Your program is going to go how you want it to go and how you make it look, and so that same thing with all the other sports. Football, obviously he's a football coach, but basketball, soccer, tennis,
Yeah.
that all it is it's beautiful to see how everybody has their handprints on their
Right.
program.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah.
that's the best thing about opening up a new school. And so my advice for anybody opening up a new school is, yeah, when you make that initial post on social media saying that you got the job and that you have the opportunity, and you put this chat GBT answer that you had the opportunity to open up a new school and it's this great thing. Yeah, make sure you understand that it's great. Make sure you go out and celebrate and do whatever you need to do to celebrate. But make sure that next morning when you wake up, you have to understand that the work starts then.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not waiting until August.
It's amazing. I see coaches, and you've done it in different places with Kinkaid and
Mm-hmm.
Houston Christian, where you put your fingerprint on the program. This
Right.
is, I like how you actually said it. You said your handprint, because it's like, that's right, not fingerprints. When you're opening up a
No,
whole new
it's,
school,
yeah,
it takes the
it's,
whole
yeah,
hand, buddy.
it's the
Uh,
hand.
I just find that completely fascinating, and it has got to, like, I can't wait. I want you to message me
Mm-hmm.
or call me after the first track meet, because that has
Yes,
to
sir.
be a pretty special
Yeah,
time. Like, okay, all this work we've
yeah,
been doing, and we actually put a product out
yeah,
there that competed hard
yeah,
for the new school. That's
yeah.
that's really special, man.
So we have our first official meet won't be until February,
Yeah,
but we'll have an inter squad meet in December, and
yeah.
we're excited about that because
Wow.
when we look at what we have on roster, we have a lot of young kids who are very hungry. We had our hurdle coach did like a 400 time trial with one of our kids yesterday, and after the time trial, the kid told me, "I've never felt a 400 so easy."
Wow.
I said, "Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, he's a freshman. He's a freshman." I said, "I'm gonna tell you right now, you're going to PR your first meet just because you're saying that you feel like it's easy in September."
Right,
And
right,
so
right,
and so we have a lot of kids like that where we know that once we finally put them on the track, and again, that's with us being patient, right? And
right,
not getting too excited
right.
and jumping our training instead of trusting our training. Like we want to tell the kids, like we can't tell them to trust it if we're not trusting. We're
That's
getting
right.
too excited
Great
and we're
point.
overtraining or trying to do too much. Sometimes you got to know when to hold and when to fold, right?
That's right.
And sometimes you can give a workout, and that day they've broken up with their girlfriend or boyfriend that day,
That's right.
and they're mentally not there because I've had that, and they're not there. And sometimes your ego had, well, not sometimes, every time your ego has to go to the side and say, "Hey, you know what? That's it for today."
Right,
And now let's come back the next day with a better mentality, better frame, because all it's going to do is make you upset.
right,
They're already mentally checked out. So now you
right.
upset. Now you
That's a
can't
good
coach
point.
everybody else
That's a good
because
point.
it's not it's not just a conducive environment. So
Yeah. Dude, CJ, I'm so proud of you, first of all. I mean,
thank
just
you.
where you've gone to your career, and really, a lot of things stacked against you. Although I kind of wonder sometimes, you, you know, just because you were a great athlete doesn't make that you're going to be a great coach, right? Now,
Right.
it doesn't exclude you from becoming a great coach,
Right.
but I know sometimes a great athlete, when they get into coaching, there can be some frustration because they're a great athlete for many reasons, but one of those
Right.
reasons is they had the God-given talent, they had genetics, right?
Right.
And so some
Absolutely.
things came probably pretty easy to them, and then they start coaching high school, and you've seen it. You run the gamut from like, oh, a really good kid that maybe they're going to
Yeah.
become an NFLer one day to like this kid can barely tie his shoes without
Yeah.
falling
Yeah.
over,
Yeah.
and so there can
Yeah.
be frustration. So,
Mhm.
I'm not sure being an athlete or a great athlete is an advantage over not having done the sport at all. I remember there
Mhm.
was an NFL field goal coach. Was it the Dolphins? I'm sure he's at other places too. But he was I don't want to overstate or understate it, but he was in a wheelchair, and
Mhm.
so he couldn't like demonstrate how to kick. He was in a wheelchair for
Right.
crying out
Right.
loud,
Right.
and he was one of the greater
Yeah.
coaches around. First of all, he was in the NFL. You're a good coach if you make it there,
Right.
right? So I just love that you have not used your background, your lack of a background, as an excuse. Like, well,
Right.
the reason why we didn't win state at Houston Christian is because I didn't have that experience as an athlete. It's like,
Right.
yeah, those are
Yeah.
excuses. You're
Yeah.
certainly not allowing those to be excuses, and still giving the kids in your club and in your high school programs great experiences, love for the sport, passion, and direction to move forward in their sport wherever their talent may lead them to. So I'm really proud of you, proud of your
Yes, sir.
development as a head coach, bringing surround yourself with assistant coaches. Those are extremely valuable, and not as easy as you make it sound. Sometimes activities to do. It's easy to
Yeah.
blow that. A lot of people
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm just it's really exciting to see what this new school, Gene Tomas, what it's going to do. Because again, that's fascinating to me. Just the whole brand new every activity. I love how you
Everything.
said we don't have a record board because as soon as we run one heat of the 100, boom, there's our school record. It's gonna
Right. Right.
can heat two
Yeah.
break it? Let's go.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. So I'm just so proud of you and so thankful for your time today, man. Your
Yes,
journey
sir.
is unique. You had that smile when I said every journey is unique, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this one's going to be
Yeah. Yeah.
good, and you did
Yes,
not
sir.
disappoint. So I'm just so grateful for your time with us here today, CJ.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate you guys again listening. I told you I love these unique ones. What an amazing story. I've done 300 of these stories and I have not heard that one. And certainly what's cool about CJ's story is, he's still this is pretty young in his coaching career. He's got 10, 20,
Yeah.
30. Heck, with today's society with health and insurance and medical breakthroughs, he's
Yeah.
got 50, 60, 70 years to go
Yeah. Yeah.
coaching. So I'm excited to watch from the sidelines and see really seeing this 20 years from now. It'd be interesting to talk to whoever the head coach of Gene Tomas is, and I can go back and say, yeah, well, I knew the first guy and what he did, and I think that's fantastic. So
Yes,
CJ, thank
sir.
you again for your time today. You guys and gals, thank you so much for being here listening. Join us next week. We'll do it all over again. See you guys.